This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Well, hello everyone, and good afternoon. Welcome to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Donovan Long here on your Wednesday afternoon at 12:30. Following a number of national, local, and really international stories, all of which have an impact on us right here in southeastern Wisconsin. But we want to get to this because it's happening right now. You're taking a live look at Marquette University Law School. Folks there have released a poll. It's a statewide poll, kind of giving us an early look at the upcoming Wisconsin Supreme Court and gubernatorial elections. As we know, a lot of you are starting to form your opinions on the likely candidates. Our Jason Calvi is in the room now, kind of news gathering for us, and will update us later on in our broadcast starting at 4 o'clock. But want to give you a live listen in to what the results of this poll are. Let's check it out. Stand by with me. Going to give you some audio here. 1 second. We are working to make sure that we are able to get the audio for you. I believe it should be working. Hold on 1 second here. I don't believe we have audio. My producer listening. Let's see. We are having some issues with the audio, but no worries. I'm just going to quickly switch some buttons around, so to speak, so that you are able to hear in real time what we are listening to. Give me just 2 seconds, folks. Let's try this now. There we go. All right, so you have the audio here. Sorry about the technical difficulties, but in any case, this is the results of a Marquette Law School poll that has just been released. Let's listen into the results with regard to the upcoming Wisconsin Supreme Court and gubernatorial elections.
Do you have a clear idea, or don't you know enough at this point to have a clear idea? And the same story. 69% in this case for both of them say they haven't heard enough at all to have an opinion about what they stand for. But 21% for Lazar and 19% for Taylor say, I don't have a clear idea. Not that I don't know anything about them, but I don't have a clear idea. I don't know where the dividing line is between haven't heard anything about them and not having a clear idea. But you can see that the clear idea, the green dots, is just 10% for Lazar and 11% for Taylor. Again, an important thing that we'll monitor as the election gets closer and people start to develop some impressions of the candidates. But it's clearly too soon for that to have happened.
But I would argue that that's how you want it to be, right? You want your Supreme Court candidates to not clearly stand for anything right now.
Okay, folks, you're listening to kind of the breakdown of the results of the poll, that the Marquette Law School has released with regard to the upcoming Wisconsin Supreme Court and gubernatorial elections. We'll get back to that in a second. Our Jason Calvi is there. He'll have live reports later on throughout the day, but I want to bring you up to speed on this that's happening right now. This is Alderman Spiker speaking about a new law, essentially, that the city will start enforcing this Saturday as it relates to unpaid and outstanding parking citations and tickets. Let's listen in to how this is going to affect a lot of you drivers out there.
And they get a parking ticket, and they say, oh, that's nice. That's a nice piece of paper the city of Milwaukee gave me. I'm going to go home and not pay them. And I'm going to keep not paying. And right now, there's no consequence for that if you're parked legally. Under the new ordinance, the news is if you come into town for a good time, love to have you, please park legally. And if you don't, please pay your tickets, or we're going to be towing your vehicle. But although there's a hard edge to this, there's also a kindness in this legislation. Right now, as I said, you wake up and your car's gone, you think it's stolen, but it could be right here in this tow lot because you have 5 or more tickets past 60 days due, and you didn't know that was the rule for getting towed. The city's going to send out 30,000 letters to everybody who is in this habitual parking violator status. And the goal here is to educate. We don't want to tow your car. We just want you to pay the ticket. And there are options. If you can't afford to pay all your tickets, you can get on a payment plan. You can go before a municipal court judge and say, look, Your Honor, I'm in trouble here. Can you work with me? And they will. But you have to get on a payment plan or have a hearing with a judge in order for you to move forward. That, whatever payment plan you get on, is going to be a heck of a lot cheaper than paying for the towing and the storage of your vehicle. With respect to one aspect of the ordinance, I guess I wanted to draw attention to is, even though the letters go out starting on Halloween, we are not going to start towing with the full regime until January 1st. So you have a little time. And part of the reason for this press conference, and thank you for coming today, is to make sure we get the word out. So there will be a huge push by DPW, the Department of Public Works, aldermanic offices, the mayor's office, to let people know that this is coming. And you have a grace period from November 1st, when this goes out, to January 1st. But January 1st, if you aren't square, your vehicle will be towed. Why do we do this? Well, municipal tickets have this thing now where they don't quite matter as much as they used to. A lot of people tear them up. And we have an enormous amount of debt on the books that is unpaid parking ticket. This effort will also help us with that problem. People would otherwise just rip up their ticket and forget about it unless there's a regime like this in place to nudge you in this way to get on a payment plan. Do something that's not only best for you, but best for the taxpayers here in Milwaukee. I have lots more to say, but happy to take any questions. Yes?
You said that it can often be somebody outside of the law. Do you have any data on
We know it is, and I can get you the data, and DPW can get you the data afterwards. We know from running our numbers it's at least 12%. It's probably significantly higher, but that's the absolute floor. So I can get you a map that shows where all the habitual parking violators are located in the city, broken up by district. But when you talk about parking tickets, there's the ones that people mostly pay, and that'll be on the Gold Coast, running from the east side through downtown to Bayview. But there's also the 12th district on the near south side that pays a lot in terms of tickets. And those folks aren't necessarily rich, but because of the density of the area, they're paying a lot in terms of parking tickets. But turning from parking tickets in general to habitual parking violators, it's all throughout the city. And again, what's happening now is the current regime is we're towing people. We'd like not to be towing people. We'd like them to get on a payment plan so they can have less of a disruption and more of an incentive to follow the law. Yes?
Regarding the towing of these vehicles, I'm assuming that would play out just like if an individual offender, say, was just parked in the third ward, and it runs through like, yep, you're an offender, we're towing this car. You're not going to be going outside city jurisdiction.
No, this is a city of Milwaukee issue. We're not going to go to Glendale and repo your car. But if you come into the city and enjoy our resources, we want you to. We just want you to also pay your tickets if you make a mistake. It's as simple as that.
So to clarify, that's how it would then help with that issue of 12 to 15% of people who are outside the city limits of getting those parking and city limits, just by the next time that they make a violation in the city of Milwaukee, that they would get towed?
Well, we will send, if they live outside the city, they'll get a letter. They'll get a letter saying, look, this is the regime. You might have thought that all we were giving you was a paper ticket you could gleefully rip up. That isn't the case. Because next time you come to the forum, we run your plate. We find out you haven't been paying your tickets, you're 5 or more, 60 or more days past due. You're not going to have a car when you come out. So happy to have you in the city, want you to enjoy it, but just make sure that you're obeying the same laws as we expect our residents to obey.
So even non-Milwaukee residents who have Milwaukee tickets will get.
Correct. Yeah, thanks for that clarification. If you are a habitual parking violator, you could live in Milwaukee, you could live in Ecuador. You're going to get a letter that says, hey, you're a violator. Hey, we're going to tow your car. hey, here's a nice QR code. Get on a payment plan, please. Correct. Yep. It's still our city of Milwaukee parking enforcement officers operate within the city of Milwaukee. And believe me, they have plenty of work to do just there. But we're trying to enforce our parking laws. And parking laws aren't just random. It's not just something the city makes up. If we don't have cars moving, if we don't have them paying a meter and then moving on, you get gridlock and nowhere to park. If you don't have the odd even parking permissions or odd even rules being followed, good luck when we try to plow snow. Your car's sitting there, we can't get through. That's a giant pile of snow that stays there half the winter. So there are reasons behind the laws. There are reasons we try to enforce the laws. This is one more tool to ensure that that enforcement takes place and to also give people an out before we come to enforcement.
You just mentioned some of those smaller situational things that this could help with. In general, how would this enforcement help the city of Milwaukee along?
In the long run, there will be two components. So it will, first of all, help make sure that our parking
Hey, good
laws
afternoon,
are
everybody. Donovan Long here, coming to you from the Wisconsin Live Desk here at 12:41 on your Wednesday. You're listening to Alderman Spiker talking about how city leaders are going to start enforcing this new parking law that is going to go into effect starting this Saturday. The alderman speaking, saying that essentially their goal is not really wanting to tow drivers who have all these outstanding parking tickets and do not pay those anyway. His goal here is to make sure you guys get on a payment plan or talk to a judge through a hearing in order to find and work out how to move forward. He says, however, if all of those steps aren't taken, or if any of those steps aren't taken, I should say, that they will tow you in order to get your attention about the importance of making sure you are not parked where you are not supposed to be, and if you are parked where you are not supposed to be, that you pay the ticket you receive for doing so. So this is a news conference that is, the latest with regard to parking in any place within the city limits of Milwaukee. This new law will go into effect starting on this Saturday. However, towing will specifically start, according to the alderman, on January 1st. So he says between now and January 1st, he says he wants you all to be put on notice. He wants you to be aware of the changes coming to your city, specifically to the city of Milwaukee anyway, if you find yourself there for various reasons. This is what you can expect if you do not pay those outstanding parking tickets. We'll continue listening in on this news conference, but wanted to brief you, if you were just now joining us, with regard to what you are watching and or listening to.
You don't have to pay a thing. If you don't bring one, you also get a free ride, because that's how the streetcar rolls, I guess.
Excuse me for the jumps in different video.
It is a device
Press the wrong button there.
funds the streetcar. And that's why it's upsetting to somebody like me when I look at, say, the 12th district and how many parking tickets get written up there, that those folks are in a way subsidizing the good folks in the couture, and that they get to ride this nice streetcar paid for courtesy of the parking tickets. Yeah. I have not. We are madly trying to work as many back channels as we can find. The state has been involved. State legislators have been involved. Folks are trying to have a conversation. Obviously, the secretary has a lot on his plate, including a government shutdown that is impeding the normal course of business. So I'm happy, if you can hear my request, happy to give any grace. I understand this doesn't happen overnight. Yes?
So you mentioned when people get their car towed, right, the thought now is like, has my car been towed? Are you going to alert people through the phone line, through personal email to let them know that, hey, your car has been towed because you have a backlog, or what is kind of that notification process?
Yeah, so what I've done is recently, again, I'm chair of public safety and health, I put forward a resolution directing the Department of Public Works to come up with a plan to make getting on a payment plan Apple easy. So there can't be an excuse, I didn't pay this because I didn't know how to sign up for a plan. But the reason I mention that in context of your request is we don't want to keep any secrets here. We want you to know as soon as possible if your car has been towed and why. How to implement that, whether we can move into the 21st century and use texting, that's all logistics. But certainly as a goal, it's a worthy goal, so that somebody doesn't come out and say, oh my gosh, my car has been towed, and they have to call the police, and the police have to take that call, they have to run the number. There's got to be a better way of doing it. Are we there yet? No. Is that a laudable goal to seek? Certainly.
So what's the current plan? What's the current plan then?
The current plan is to send out 30,000 letters and tell people you're in the danger zone, and please do what's right for you, and get on a payment plan so we don't have to tow you next time we see you.
Again, folks, you are listening to Alderman Spiker talking about how city leaders are going to start enforcing a new parking law that will take effect at the end of this week, or a little bit over the weekend anyway, towards Saturday. But the towing, if you are parked illegally or legally with 5 or more citations that are 60 or more days past due, if you fall into that category and have not scheduled a court date or entered into a payment plan, the alderman here is saying you will be towed starting January 1st. So between today and January 1st, he is saying he's putting so many residents and drivers who go or park downtown on notice. He says his office and city leaders and other dignitaries are going to send out about 30,000 letters, as he just put it, to those drivers saying, hey, you're in the danger zone. This is a warning. If this is you, you have not done the necessary steps, or rather taken the necessary steps to sort of get yourself out of the hole in terms of not paying parking citations or letting them just fester, you are at risk of getting your car towed. And again, they will start that towing January 1st. So this news conference you've been listening to with Alderman Spiker at the helm here sort of details that and kind of unpacks the repercussions that you will face if you do not pay those citations, if your car has 5 or more of them that are more than 60 days old and have not been unpaid. So a lot to consider if you live in the city of Milwaukee, or if you frequent the city of Milwaukee, if you live in the surrounding areas. Make sure that you pay those citations. In any case, we'll give you another listen to the alderman as he continues with this news conference.
Muncie and I sat down with Peter Knox from Parking Municipal Court. We sat down with Judge Chavez, and we tried to bring in as many partners as we could. We crafted legislation. That legislation got through committee, and then after the August break, we were able to pass it, but there was one change that was made to it, which is instead of becoming effective immediately, it shall become effective November 1st. But there was some debate on the floor about whether there was an equity issue here. And the equity issue were people were concerned that parking tickets would be coming out of the hide of those who can least afford it. My son, young guy, has been towed in a private lot before, and it's the last thing you can afford. It throws you off. You can't get to work. So it is a big deal. But the idea was get people notified that there's a payment plan, get them on that payment plan so that they don't have to go through all this, because it's a heck of a way to learn what the law is. I'm sorry, sir, in back, you had a question? So I don't want to get too inside baseball, although you see I'm not shy of baseball. But basically, we have a collector who tries to collect them if they aren't paid within X number of days. And then over time, if the tickets go on long enough, eventually we have to write them off. That debt has accumulated over years, and it's sitting out there on our books. And over time, more debt comes along, and some debt gets written off. So, but on the whole this is part of a larger problem we have. We have so much outstanding debt here in the city, so much money that's on the books but not collected. That's a serious problem. I've talked about it to my colleagues. Alderman Jackson's been a leader on this front. We have to do work that goes just beyond parking tickets, like I said, and making municipal tickets matter. If you're going to rip up your ticket, you might as well not have a municipal ordinance. It's not being followed. We have to make them matter. Sorry, sir.
Can you provide details about payment options and payment plans, like how
You can establish a payment plan by calling 414-384-0840 or visiting the tow lot. But honestly, you can also wait till you get that nice letter if you're a habitual parking violator, where we have a beautiful flyer. So you get your sheet and there's a nice QR code for direct payment. And I'll get this to you guys after the thing. There's a payment plan resolution, call, and muni court resolution. So you have 3 options. So this will be in the letter that your vehicle is eligible to be towed, but really what is going to make the difference is you all working to get the message out, and DPW getting flyers everywhere they can. DMV, if possible, they're talking to the DMV about whether they can put them there, just so that everybody knows, this has kind of been mostly the law the last million years, but y'all should know it's the law because this is affecting a bunch of people. And we want a new day where everybody knows what the law is, and the reason will not be, I didn't even know that wasn't allowed. We want to eliminate that.
So the letters are only going to those who have had 5 or more
Yep.
tickets.
Yeah, so that's how we get the 30,000 number. We're not sending it literally to every single resident in the city of Milwaukee, which even that wouldn't cover the 12+% that live outside of the city. We're sending it to those who are in the danger zone, who are the habitual offenders, the scofflaws, if you will.
And then, I'm not sure if there's something here that would speak to this, but how is the toll lot prepared for January 1st if they're in FOX6 News?
Yeah, we've been working hand in glove with them to make sure that they have the spaces ready. They've assured us they do. I was just here at a press conference a couple of weeks ago when we talked about a state law change that would allow officers to tow a first-time reckless driver. Tow lot, again, will make the space. They have space and they can acquire the space as needed. So they've told us that's not going to be the problem. And again, if this is successful, not as many people get towed. That's the goal. Sorry, sir, in back.
So you said a little bit about how the parking tickets help fund the streetcar. Maybe for some of the viewers at home that aren't really in the know, what are some of the other things that get funded through these tickets?
So here's how life is supposed to work. We have something called a transportation fund, and that receives money that comes into it in the form of payments through city-owned parking garages, through our meters, through parking tickets. So that's all revenue. We also have assets. We have all these tracks for a streetcar. We have these structures that are parking garages. We have a bunch of assets. And then we have costs that we spend to all our parking enforcement officers, the parking division in general. We spend that money out. But the money we take in is greater than the money we send out for the parking. I believe that's true. You might want to check me on that. The streetcar is a net loser in terms of the money it takes in terms of revenue is something like $2.8 million. The money it costs to operate it is in the neighborhood of $7 million. So there's a $4.2 million deficit to run the streetcar that we don't get back. Why does this matter? Well, the parking fund, the transportation fund, essentially the parking fund, is in a bad way. You notice this year we didn't do a transfer from that fund to the general fund. So the nice thing about the parking fund is when it's healthy, you can make a transfer from it to the general fund, and you can help keep libraries open. You can help pave streets. You can help get some new fire engines. You can do all manner of things. But because the parking fund is in the red, not on the books, accounting-wise it looks like everything's fine. But ask our comptroller what's really going on. He's going to tell you there's a $32.3 million cash deficit in the parking fund. So that's why we can't transfer to the general fund. As much as we'd like to have money for libraries, we can't get money out of that fund because it is in such poor condition. Yes, sir.
Kind of mentioned it, so I'll just expand on it. Given that you guys have the budget here coming up here, given that this goes into the success and kind of as you mentioned, be able to shift around, and given that the city's or the downtown's ladder truck just went down, is that kind of one of those things that maybe some of this has kind of prompted this kind of regime to take place because there are so many other needs elsewhere and such deficits?
That was never my motivation. I didn't come into, honestly, when I heard about the habitual parking violator thing, I thought of my son. And I thought, that's a terrible way to learn your car's gone. Wouldn't it be better if you could have a gentler process for people to learn that they're in the danger zone without towing their car? So I thought of that. I thought secondly about my kick about making municipal tickets matter, which isn't happening here, and how this would be a process for doing it. You'd give people fair warning and then you'd act if they don't do what's in their best interest. So that's how I came to it. I can't speak to why other people would support it, but I came to it from a pure place of wanting to help those who are getting towed and help the taxpayer who is not having the revenue on the books find its way into the pockets of those who supply city services. So, yes, sir.
So I know DPW has said they want to write 65,000 more tickets in 2026. As
Yeah.
it relates to this project, isn't that kind of creating a cycle where we're rolling out more tickets, thereby creating possibly more habitual offenders?
Yeah, so I would ask parking, but they're not here. So the question is, okay, 65,000 more tickets. Why weren't those written last year? What was wrong last year that we weren't having 65,000 more tickets? Or if there is suddenly all this opportunity that wasn't there last year, where does it come from? Where are we going to get all these extra tickets? Are we just going to enforce the law more strictly? Because it's true, constituents call me all the time, oh man, if you just sat down here, you could write tickets all day. We have a limited number of parking checkers, and the administration has a plan that we're going to write 65,000 more tickets. I don't know the details of how they're going to do that. That's a good question for them. Have I finally exhausted everyone? That is my goal. All right, if you attend, so I've done 2. If you attend 3 more of my press conferences, you will get a badge that says habitual press conference attender. So please come by for your punch card after. So thank you very much. I really do appreciate it.
All right, everyone, you just heard from Alderman Spiker speaking there on a new parking enforcement that city leaders will start in the coming weeks here. We do know this is something that we will be following on our broadcast and on our Fox Local mobile app with regard to how certain folks are going to face repercussions for unpaid parking tickets after a certain amount of time and how they will subsequently be towed. In the meantime, you can find this information on our Fox Local mobile app and at fox6now.com. We are going to take a quick 2-minute break here, but on the other side, we'll introduce you to a couple. They are newlyweds. They are stuck in Jamaica as they are dealing with widespread damage from Hurricane Melissa that made landfall on the island yesterday as a Category 5 storm. We're going to talk about how they're doing, what they've seen, how they're managing, and when they were able to get home. All of that and more on the other side of the break. Thank you so much for joining us right here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. See you in just a bit.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Donovan Long here, coming to you from the Wisconsin Live Desk here at 1 o'clock, the top of the hour here. We are still working to make sure we are able to get you the couple. They're newlyweds. They are stuck in Jamaica navigating the storm damage that was left behind after Hurricane Melissa just slammed into the island of Jamaica yesterday and caused widespread flooding, destruction, and catastrophe. We did have them a short second ago. It appears our service may be a little bit experiencing some issues, as you can imagine, because there's so many issues there with regard to cell service, internet service. So we are hopefully going to get them back on our digital broadcast as soon as possible. But while we troubleshoot that and we work with them via email, we want to also talk about one of the other big issues facing not only people in our community, but people around the world. We're talking about food share programs, specifically SNAP benefits. Because of the government shutdown, that funding for SNAP benefits could run out by November 1st, which I believe is Saturday this weekend. So let's listen into what's happening on Capitol Hill as lawmakers and elected officials work to try and curb this issue and keep this from happening.
Millions of Americans can go hungry. And we all know that that is not the real choice. These are not our only choices. And Americans should not be forced by this president to choose between health care and food. So what needs to happen is really obvious. It's really clear. House Republicans need to come back to Washington and their vacation and get to work. We need to negotiate a deal. The president, who talks about the art of the deal, needs to get involved in the art of this deal to lower health care costs and make sure that people have the food that they need.
Thanks, Senator Welch.
Thank you, Bernie, for calling this. Number one, this is not about the shutdown. You know, many of you who have asked us, are you getting pressure because now SNAP benefits are going to expire, and therefore shouldn't you reopen government? That is a fair question, but there's a clear answer. This has nothing to do with the shutdown. The law requires, and the funds are available to continue SNAP right now without any interruption. So that is a decision that the president is making on his own, to allow people to go hungry when he has the power to continue the SNAP benefits that folks desperately need. And it is desperate. I mean, the folks who rely on SNAP, $6 a day, and you can barely buy a pound of hamburger in Chelsea. But that is real. The other thing is a lot of the questions you ask are about the tactics. Who's doing what? How are you going to get them to negotiate? That's why I think stepping back and having some context, there really was a one big beautiful bill that really did provide incredible tax cuts for very wealthy people and corporations. There really was a big beautiful bill that cut food benefits and cut health care. And we are fighting for what Republican families and Democratic families need. And that's health care. Taking away the health care, the tax credits, and this applies to folks who are working, buying in the marketplace, means that they're not going to be able to afford it and they're going to lose it. You know, in Vermont, Bernie mentioned this, but it's astonishing when we see some Vermonters, because we have really high health care. A family who's making 60-year-old family, $82,000 a year, they can have a premium increase of $23,000. And then the folks we represent, Bernie, you're getting these letters, I am, and I know all of my colleagues are. There's panic among folks who need that $6 a day. And just a couple of people, a woman in St. Johnsbury, we will either be evicted or hungry. Which would you choose? A woman in Essex, without SNAP, I will not be able to eat or get through the month. The situation is out of control. A Vermonter in Brattleboro, I am terrified to hear I'll likely have no grocery money next month. Now, the heartbreak for me about this is not about the politics of who's on first, who's winning, who's got the right move. The politics of this are, do we all want to meet the obligations that we have to the people we represent? And Republican families, Republican farmers, Republican small businesses, as well as their Democratic counterparts, are all the ones who are going to suffer if we don't act. It's totally inexcusable, and it's completely unnecessary.
Senator Murphy?
Thank you very much, Bernie. Listen, I think we have to understand that Donald Trump and Republicans have one priority and one priority only. That is the enrichment of their billionaire and corporate friends at the expense of everyone else. The big, beautiful bill is a simple enterprise, the most massive transfer of wealth from the poor and the middle class to the rich and affluent in the history of the country. Included in that big, beautiful bill is a massive cut to nutrition benefits. And so the tactics they are using today are in service of maintaining their one single priority, the tax cuts that they were able to gift to the very wealthy and the very powerful. The richest families in this country in the big, beautiful bill got a tax cut of $270,000. And so it shouldn't surprise anyone how outrageous these tactics are. One is to tell House Republicans to not show up for work, right? I know you guys have to write a new story every day, but there's really only one story, which is that the House Republicans have been AWOL from their jobs for the entirety of the shutdown because it's easier to protect your tax cuts for the wealthy if you don't even require your employees to show up on the job. It is extraordinary to put families in this country through the horrific, mind-altering pain of knowing that your children are going to go to bed hungry at night. But it's in service of protecting the tax cuts for the wealthy. As Tina said, what they believe is that they can put people through such horrifying pain in this country that Democrats will agree to a budget that allows for those tax cuts to continue and spreads even more pain amongst people through the evisceration of our healthcare system. So we are here today talking about this illegal decision that the president has made to not spend these contingency funds because only one thing matters to him, preserving those tax cuts. We are here as the only body showing up for work today because only one thing matters to Donald Trump, preserving those tax cuts. No president in the history of this country has ignored that law, has during a period of shutdown refused to spend the contingency funds because no president prior to this one was so myopic about helping only one small segment of people in this country, the very rich and powerful, that they were willing to do such enormous, unconscionable damage to the most vulnerable families in this country as a tactic to try to make sure that their help for the powerful is maintained.
Senator Van Hollen.
Thank you. Thank you, Bernie. We know that Donald Trump and Republicans here in Congress and all their billionaire buddies don't care about slashing and now terminating food assistance programs for 40 million Americans, including 16 million kids. How can we say that with confidence? Because as my colleague said, they showed us who they were in what they called the big, beautiful bill. It was beautiful if you're a billionaire. For everybody else, it sucked. And one of the things they did was cut food assistance programs for almost $200 billion to help finance those tax cuts for their billionaire buddies. That was a choice. It was an intentional, deliberate choice. Tax breaks for billionaires at the expense of kids and other on food and nutrition programs. And what they're doing right now is also a deliberate choice. They are using this Trump shutdown to inflict unnecessary pain on the American people. We've seen this already in the context of federal employees, where they've been illegally firing federal employees. Just within the last 48 hours, a federal judge said that they were imposing political retribution on federal employees. We know what Russ Vought told the country he wanted to do. He said he wanted to impose trauma on federal employees. And now what they're doing is using these cuts to food and nutrition programs to impose trauma on all of the American people. And we know it's deliberate because, as my colleagues have pointed out repeatedly, this statement was on the Department of Agriculture website just within the last few weeks. They know what congressional intent is. They know they've got the money, and they are choosing not to use it for this purpose. So this is a sadistic policy being imposed by Russ Vought and Donald Trump and Republicans, depriving 40 million Americans of food, nutrition assistance, to keep paying for their billionaire buddies' tax cuts. I looked up in Webster's the definition of sadism, and the definition is to delight in cruelty. That's really sick. But that's exactly what Donald Trump and Russ Vought and Republicans are doing. They're delighting in cruelty, and they're using 40 million Americans and 16 million of them kids for their perverse purposes at this moment. Our message is pretty simple. You don't have to do it. In fact, the law says you should spend the money to make sure that we feed hungry Americans. So don't do it, and join us, as we've done 7 times now, to vote to reopen the government without giving Donald Trump and Russ Vought a blank check, and also to bring down health care costs that are going through the roof. That's our message.
Senator Warren.
Oh, thank you. Excuse me. For the first time in American history, a president of the United States is shutting down access to food for millions of Americans. Donald Trump has made the decision to let people across this country go hungry. Trump is telling 15 million hungry children, eat dirt. Trump is telling 1 million hungry vets, eat dirt. Trump is telling 8 million seniors who are hungry, eat dirt. That is how much Donald Trump cares about the children, the veterans, the seniors, the people of this country. Look, Donald Trump knows how to round up money. He's managed to round up money for a gold-encrusted ballroom to replace the East Wing of the White House. He has managed to round up $40 billion for Argentina, but he can't manage to round up 1 nickel for hungry children in this country. This is a manufactured crisis. Donald Trump and the Republicans, part 1, decided to cut benefits for those who are hungry in the big, beautiful bill. Part 2 is the government shutdown. Donald Trump and the Republicans would rather shut down government than help Americans afford their health care. And part 3 is Donald Trump and the Republicans ignore current law, ignore the $6 billion already sitting in reserve in order to deny hungry people access to the food they need. So while Donald Trump is dreaming of well-done steaks with ketchup to be eaten in his gold-encrusted ballroom, little kids will go hungry. I am proud to be here with the Democrats who are fighting back. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions? Yes, right here. Yeah. Tell us where you're from.
I'm Gabe Hawkinson from the Bill News Service. This is for any of the senators, but do you think that the unpopularity of SNAP benefits being taken away and all the lawsuits that attorney generals are filing across the United States, do you think that's going to have any sway with Trump and the Republicans?
Damn right I do. Look, what people understand is you got a multi-billionaire in the White House palling around with people who are worth hundreds of billions of dollars, giving these people massive tax breaks, and at the same time telling families in this country who are struggling to put food.
Good afternoon, everyone. Donovan Long here from the Wisconsin Live Desk. Here, wanted to kind of brief you, if you're just now joining us, on what you're listening to. Obviously, Senator Bernie Sanders addressing members of the media, but he, along with his constituents, other Democrats, were speaking about the government shutdown and its specific impact on food share programs, specifically SNAP benefits. We know SNAP benefits are at risk of losing funding running out of money by November 1st, which is this Saturday, if there is not some sort of deal reached between both Democrats and Republicans. This means so many families, millions of families, will go hungry potentially, and so will their children. And we know that so many communities rely on SNAP benefits to continue feeding families all around the year. So this is the Democrat response to the government shutdown and its impact on SNAP benefits. A lot of them calling out President Trump for not doing enough, in their words, to make sure these families go with food. And so this is an ongoing dispute between people on both sides of the aisle, but that's a live view of Democrats right now on Capitol Hill responding to the SNAP benefits lack of funding with regard to the government shutdown. We'll continue listening in a little bit longer here.
Well, if your question is, do I think even more Republicans will come on board? Yes, I do. Yes, ma'am.
The largest federal workers union, AFGE, just said in a statement to NBC that they're calling for an end to shutdown, saying that both political parties have made their point and there's still no end in sight, and it's time to pass a clean CR to end the shutdown today. What's your reaction to this?
Well, I'll answer, others can jump in. Look, everybody up here wants to end the shutdown. Everybody up here is upset that federal employees, including our own staffs who are working hard, are not getting paid. We all want our federal workers to get paid. But we also want to make sure that children in America are fed. We also want to make sure that 50,000 people a year do not die unnecessarily when they're thrown off of health care. And we also do not want to see health care premiums doubling for 20 million people. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I want to follow up on that question. Is there a point in the future that you see where Democrats may decide it's just easier to vote on it?
Look, I think what this thing ends up being about, I wish I could say otherwise. There's one man who's going to end this. I guess he's an Asian on his whatever he's doing. That's Trump. Republicans will listen to Trump. Now, Trump may be crazy and he may be a pathological liar, but he's not stupid and he's not a bad politician. He understands where people are at. I think he is going to catch on that the American people are not sympathetic to giving tax breaks, massive tax breaks, to billionaires and cutting nutrition programs for kids. All right, somebody else jump in here. I'm answering all the other questions. All right.
Sure, go ahead.
If we come to November 1st and this contingency fund has not been released, no legislation has been passed to cover SNAP and countless other benefits being affected during the shutdown, would you urge your Democratic colleagues to reopen the government and continue hard negotiations on fighting for health care in regular order?
I'm convinced that after this press conference, you're going to write such powerful stories to spread the word all across America that the president has the funds right now for kids, that those kids are going to get that funding. Those seniors are going to get that funding. I'll defer to any of my colleagues who would like to add anything to that. Yes, sir.
Thanks for Kyle from FOX News. You guys have been through, most of you guys up here in the Senate, for 2 Trump administrations. Are any of these actions that the president is taking surprising to you, having seen what he's done for all this time? And doesn't stuff like this vindicate statements from the senators who, Democratic senators who voted for the CR initially, saying they were worried about action?
I find it absolutely shocking because this is not an attack on immigrants, which we are well experienced in. This is an attack on the most vulnerable families in America. And this is not because either side can say, well, legislation needs to be passed in order to fund this program, because the legislation was already passed to fund this program. The money is sitting in the federal treasury, $5.5 billion. In addition, there's interchange authority that allows tariff funds to be used to supplement that. And the president likes to brag about how much money the tariffs are raising. So the idea that you're going to use babies, children, vulnerable families, seniors as pawns and take away food for a month in a negotiation, I find it absolutely stunning, beyond
anything else I've seen from this administration.
Maybe anyone else want to jump?
And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. If you were just now joining us, you were listening to several Democratic lawmakers sort of respond to the government shutdown's impact on SNAP benefits, which we know right now they are at risk of losing funding, running out of money, specifically by this weekend, which is November 1st. You'll find more of this coverage on our broadcast starting at 4 o'clock and on our Fox 6 local mobile app. In the meantime, I want to give you a short, quick break before we come back with more news as it relates to what's happening around the country, our community, and internationally. Thank you so much for watching us right here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We'll be right back.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Donovan Long here. Your time now is 1:24. Before the break, we were listening to Senator Bernie Sanders, Senator Elizabeth Warren, along with their constituents talk about the government shutdown's impact on SNAP benefits, which, as it stands, is set to run out of money on Saturday, November 1st. We know Hakeem Jeffries is also addressing the same thing on Capitol Hill as well. Let's listen in to see how he's responding to the government shutdown and the fallout from such.
The level of corruption that we've seen. And it hurts the American people because Donald Trump is more focused on rewarding his friends on Wall Street by doing things like finding $40 billion to bail out Argentina, and he can't find a dime to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, or is withholding billions of dollars in SNAP assistance that the administration has because it's been allocated by Congress in order to cause children in America to go hungry. That's Republican policy. This is not political for us. This is about making life better for the American people, and it certainly is the case that in working to make that happen, we've got to fix our broken healthcare system and decisively address the Republican healthcare crisis. So, question on SNAP?
Yeah. So if the Senate somehow did pass the Hawley bill to fund SNAP, would you and House Democrats support that as a people?
Leader Thune has expressed opposition apparently to the Hawley bill, so it doesn't seem like anything is going to happen there. because Republicans clearly want to weaponize hunger, and that's unfortunate. The best path forward is for Donald Trump to instruct his administration to spend the money that has already been allocated by Congress, more than $5 billion that they have in an emergency contingency fund for moments like this, to ensure that there's continuity in terms of SNAP benefits. And as has been the case for weeks now, the American people will continue to hold Republicans accountable for the shutdown, for the refusal to reopen the government, for the failure to address the health care crisis that extremist Republicans have created, and now for the possibility that 42 million Americans, including 16 million children, 8 million seniors, and over 1 million veterans may go hungry because the Trump administration wants to cut off SNAP benefits on November 1st.
Thank you. If Democrats are successful in Virginia and New Jersey, will you take that as a sign to keep up the fight and not reopen the government, or that your demands on health care be met? And then separately, how many briefings total have you received on the U.S. military strikes in Venezuela? And have you seen sufficient evidence that those were drug votes that they established?
There's been zero evidence presented to me, and I believe that has been presented to the Gang of Eight and certainly to the Congress to justify the strikes that have taken place based on what has been presented to us by the administration. It's my understanding that there is going to be a briefing tomorrow that I think will be hosted by the Armed Services Committee, and we'll see whether the administration can finally come forward with evidence as to the nature of the people who are being killed, their connection to the drug trade, and what legal authority does the administration have to engage in what some have characterized as extrajudicial killings. In terms of what may happen next Tuesday, that's on the non-governmental side. And our commitment to the American people from the very beginning of this shutdown drama that Donald Trump and Republicans have jammed down the throats of everyday Americans in ways that are causing significant pain is that we will find a bipartisan path forward to enact a spending agreement that actually makes sense for the American people, but at the same time addresses real needs of everyday Americans, working class Americans, and middle class Americans. That's who we're fighting for. Not the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected. We leave that to the Republicans. They do that well. We're fighting for everyday Americans, which includes addressing the health care crisis that is jamming them up. Now, what happens in Virginia and New Jersey and California, where I'm very confident that we will be successful, doesn't have anything to do, in my view, with the outcome in reopening the government. First of all, we need House Republicans to just show up for work. Are they coming back to Washington next Monday? It remains to be seen. And we need them to just simply commit to engaging with Democrats on Capitol Hill. Like, just give us a little bit of time. You've given Hamas time. Donald Trump has found time to give to the Chinese Communist Party, but can't spend a minute to reopen the government for the American people. Well, at the same time, we've seen Donald Trump bulldoze half the White House so he can create a ballroom where he will be celebrated by his sycophants like a king. This is extraordinary stuff. The American people know the Trump administration has gone too far. They are rejecting his policies, rejecting Republican policies. Republicans have broken every promise that they made on the campaign trail. Life isn't getting better. It's getting worse. The majority of the American people have consistently now said that the country is moving in the wrong direction. And as Democrats, we're committed to getting things back on track. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey everybody. We were just listening in there to Hakeem Jeffries, who was giving an update on the government shutdown, of course, now in day 29. Well, I'm Haley Spittler. I'm taking over here for Donovan Long. I'll be with you for the next hour of the Wisconsin Live Desk as we take you kind of around the state with different news as it's happening live right now. We are going to start by taking just a quick break, and then we'll be back and we're going to switch it into sports mode. So get excited. We're going to learn all about the different theme nights if you're heading to a Milwaukee Admirals game this week. So stay tuned. We'll be right back in 2 minutes.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. It is your Wednesday afternoon and we're here at 1:34. Let's take a quick live look outside in downtown Milwaukee. Kind of a cloudy day, but it's dry, so we'll take it. And it's that seasonable kind of fall temperatures maintaining this week. We're here with 53 degrees. Maybe a light jacket, maybe just a long sleeve is all you really need. But speaking of things to do, here in Milwaukee, why not go to a hockey game? We're actually being joined live right now by John Greenberg, the president of the Milwaukee Admirals. John, thanks so much for joining us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Absolutely. It's great to be here, Haley.
Yeah. Okay, so the season kind of just got underway. So before we switch gears and talk about some fun theme nights, how are we looking so far? We've got 3 games under our belt.
Yep, so we finished actually 4 done. So we played an opening night down in Rockford. Lost that one in overtime, but we played a good game. Then we came back here for opening night here in Milwaukee the following weekend and got a good win out of that. And then we were in San Jose last weekend, and we split that series. So it was a good way to get started. And now we finally get back home and can play some more home games. We've got 3 big ones this week.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we get into the fun themes, if people have just never made it out to a Milwaukee Admirals game before, what can we expect? What's in store for us?
Sure. Well, we're going to give you 2.5 hours of really fun entertainment surrounding the game of hockey, and it's supposed to be fun from the minute that you walk into the building until the minute that you leave, with the game, everything going on in the middle. So, we want you to, if you're going to make that investment in your entertainment with us, to know that you're going to have a fun night from beginning to end.
Yeah, absolutely. And you do that, make it even more fun occasionally with a theme night, which you have one in store for us this evening. Tell me about Hacktoberfest. First of all, I love the name.
Yes, well, sometimes it doesn't sound very appetizing, but it's it's all about hockey and Oktoberfest coming together. And uh, we tried to do this the last couple of years. We've had a great relationship with the Old German Beer Hall over on Old World 3rd Street, and there'll actually be a keg tapping that'll take place, I believe, at about 6 o'clock tonight. Roscoe, our mascot, will be there as part of that. And then once we get into the building here, we'll have the Beer Men, spelled Bieer, Men, is it's going to be some musical entertainment during the night, and we'll have a Stein holding contest. We're going to have there's going to be a sauerkraut eating contest, which is I just saw the sauerkraut we bought for that, so it's going to be a real scene to watch people participate in that, and just a lot of fun things around Oktoberfest. And there's still a ticket package people can buy where they can actually get an Admiral's beer stein. Yep, there's the stein holding contest from last year. So, but you can purchase an Admiral's beer stein, and you get 2 free drinks with that. One with here in the building, and then one over at the Old German Beer Hall. So it's just a lot of fun, and during the course of the game, we'll have lots of German trivia and things like that around our German heritage here in our city.
Yeah, I love that you guys are really giving a true Oktoberfest experience with all of those sorts of traditions while also getting to experience a hockey game. As you mentioned, we are taking a look at some photos from previous years. How has this gone in the past? Is this kind of a fan favorite night?
Yeah, it is, and I think there's people who have come back year after year to participate in this, and it's a fun early season promotion. Obviously, we just get started in October, and we're trying to get people's attention and opportunities like this for people who've done it before. We've got some repeat customers for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I have to talk a little bit about Friday. It is Halloween. If you're still looking for plans, y'all are having a little Monster Mash.
We're playing the Cleveland Monsters, so it's just fitting that happened to be our opponent for the night. Made it very easy to come up with a theme, and I know that there's a ton of trick-or-treating going on in the communities, here in Milwaukee and the suburbs, and if you're looking for something to kind of accentuate that, we're offering that for you. So it's people can wear their costumes. We're talking adults and children can wear their costumes to the game, and the first 500 fans in costume are going to get a free ticket to another game. In addition, we're going to do some trick-or-treating after the game is over on the ice. So if you have your costume, we'll come down, and our friends from Herbert's Candy are going to be participating in that with us, and we're going to give you a special trick-or-treat bag and go on the ice. Some of our players are going to be out there. Our mascot's going to be out there, a bunch of our game day staff, and it'd be just a fun way to come onto the ice afterwards and do a little last-minute trick-or-treating.
Yeah, I love taking a look at these photos and seeing that people are truly, partaking and participating. And I like that you mentioned that adults can wear their costumes too, because, sometimes you just feel like you've gotten too old, but not at the Milwaukee Admirals. You can still show up, head-to-toe costume, get some free tickets. I have to ask you, are you going to be wearing your Captain America Halloween costume?
That's a great question. I wish I knew where that shield was. I think I actually gave it back to the actual Captain America, but we're going to see if we can find something fun for me to throw on for Friday night. I know our staff always looks forward to doing stuff like this, and we for many years, especially back at the Bradley Center, everybody got on board and participated in that. So we'll see what we get, and I'm looking forward to seeing fans in costumes on Friday night.
Yeah, absolutely. What a lifelong memory to say you got to trick or treat on the ice. That is so cool. And then you guys aren't going to be tired enough, so you said let's do a third theme night this week. How are y'all celebrating Hispanic Heritage Night?
Yeah, this is a special night every season, and the Latino community here in Milwaukee is there's a lot of hockey fans in there. There's a lot of people who I think we brought out when we first started doing this, and they've become season ticket holders. They've become real big fans of ours. So we're glad to be able to do this, and again this year, and we'll have there's going to be a market that's going to be set up on the concourse of different vendors Hispanic vendors around, and people will be able to sample their wares. And we'll also be having, I know there's a face painter coming to do some special face painting, and we'll have music and dancers and lots of, really fun things to go around that theme during the course of the night.
Yeah, absolutely. I was taking a look at y'all's schedule. There's some more theme nights coming up. Is there one that's just really sticking out in your mind that you're really excited for this season?
Well, I think, frankly, the next one after that, our Salute to Our Military, which we're doing on November the 7th, that every year has become a very special night here. And we've had the privilege of having World War II veterans, Korean War veterans who've been able to join us. And, we have a new ticket program with VetTix, which is a national organization. So if you're a veteran or active military in our community, we're in southeastern Wisconsin, you should go to vettix.org, and they will help you get tickets for free for the night. And the more the merrier. The more people we can pay tribute to that night, we'd really like to be able to do that. So that's a special night coming up on November 7th. We certainly have our concert series coming up after the first of the year. We've got 4 major recording artists that are joining us. Low Cash, which is a country act, will be here on February 7th. The Gin Blossoms, back from the 90s. That was back in my wheelhouse. They'll be here on February 21st. The Dropkick Murphys are going to be back. They've been with us four times. And we're glad to have them back in March, right before they go back to Boston for their St. Patrick's Day celebration. They're going to be with us on March the 7th. And then Josh Ross, who's a rapidly rising country star, will be with us on March the 28th. And then, one more concert that's not necessarily, the big, huge artists, but it is actually my favorite day of the year, is the visit from the Wisconsin band, University of Wisconsin Marching Band. So they'll be with us on March the 6th. So, lots of great entertainment coming up over the course of the entire season. We always encourage people to go to our website, click on the promotional schedule, just to stay up on everything going on, because stuff gets added there all the time.
Yeah, you guys truly have something for everyone. I think everyone can go find a theme night that really speaks to them. Again, starting tonight with Hacktoberfest. Lots to look forward to. Thanks so much for joining us, John.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Again, that was the latest on the Milwaukee Admirals. They've got 3 theme nights coming up this week. We'll make sure to get you all the information you need for tickets on Fox Local. And speaking of sports, we're actually going to be joined next with our very own sports director, Tim Van Voren. He's at Lambeau. He's got the latest on your green and gold, the Packers. First, though, we got to take a quick break. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. If you're just tuning in, we got an update from the Milwaukee Admirals about all of their games this week, which have some pretty fun themes. So now I thought we should probably bring in the man, our sports director, Tim Van Voren. He's at Lambeau. He's got the latest for us with the Packers. But for starters, hey Tim, thanks for joining us again on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Haley, fun to chat with you again. Lots going on in the world of sports, including those Admirals. Don't overlook them. Big homestand, lots of games. Good stuff. Good to have them get their due here a little bit as well.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're going to talk Packers. I'm wearing my green shirt today. I'm not a Packers fan, but I can cheer on anyone really for the Wisconsin viewers here. But how are things looking? I want to start actually with this past Sunday. Big game for the Packers, taking down their old QB, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, a lot of hype, obviously, on that one, Haley. Everything leading into the matchup of the quarterbacks on Sunday night. Jordan Love against Aaron Rodgers. They were teammates in their time in Green Bay together for 3 years. Rodgers, of course, having played 18 years in Green Bay. And he's the #1 all-time leader in passer rating in NFL history. And Jordan Love was the guy who had the #1 type game of NFL passer rating in Sunday night's contest against the Steelers. The Packers win it in Pittsburgh. That gets them to 5-1-1. They're feeling pretty good about themselves as they get back on the practice field today, Haley, with a matchup coming against Carolina this Sunday.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you think this gives Jordan Love like a little bit of boost of confidence taking down Aaron Rodgers Sunday?
I certainly think it does. Not outwardly. Jordan Love is a very cool customer. And, even after the game, he knew he played extremely well. He admitted it was satisfying, but it wasn't like he thought, oh, my gosh, this is such a feather in my cap, anything like that. I do think it's a continuation of what Love and the Packers are hoping for from him, which is consistency and sharp play and not turning the football over. He's the NFC Offensive Player of the Week. That award was just announced today, Haley. Third time in his career that he wins that award. And as Matt LaFleur was saying today, that's great, but it could have been Tucker Kraft too, because Tucker Kraft had such a big game for the Packers on the offensive end.
You just used the word consistency, which is actually something that I've been hearing a lot about the Packers this year, but not necessarily because they have it. People are thinking it's a lack of consistency, maybe a really slow start on the offensive side, then they come back after the half. You could say the same thing about the defense. What do you think that they really need to kind of fix to be consistent throughout the game?
Well, Haley, I don't know who you're talking to, but I think they are observing the Packers pretty well. Even Sunday night's game, very inconsistent. They got off to a terrible first half. They committed all kinds of penalties. They missed a couple of field goal kicks. They couldn't get third down conversions themselves. They were letting the Steelers get third down conversions. Rodgers in Pittsburgh ahead at the half. It looked like, oh my gosh, could be a glum evening for the Packers. And then boom, the second half is an entirely different story. So that proves that they have that in them. They have the offensive talent to do that, particularly by now that Christian Watson is back. For me, I think it's the offensive end that will really tell the tale of this Packers season. To me, the defense has had its moments of concern, but by and large has done the job. It's one of the top 10 defenses in the NFL. You can win with that defense for sure. I think as the season goes along and the weather gets colder and the Packers are playing all these outdoor games that they'll have at the tail end of the season, Micah Parsons and that Packer defense are going to be pretty tough to stop. So to me, it's on the Packer offense to develop that consistency, to score regularly, to not turn the football over, and when they drive down the field, to punch it into the end zone. Haley, the other night they had one real strong first half drive, looked terrific, and those were the only points they got the whole first half. You need to be a little bit more consistent on that end of the field as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I feel like the fans would really appreciate that little bit of consistency. It makes it a little more enjoyable and less stressful when you're watching the game. Did Matt LaFleur give us any updates on injuries today?
He was pretty evasive. We're not going to see Lucas Van Ness back out anytime soon. Marshawn Lloyd, who's on the injured list, not anytime soon. So it's going to be a while for some of these guys. The Packers have been pretty healthy. There have been a lot of injuries around the league, Haley, big-time changes for teams because a key player goes down. For Green Bay, that hasn't really been the case. So this is the time where you want to win these games, build this consistency, get some confidence. Have an easy win or two. You said, it's more stress-free for viewers. The Packers don't play many stress-free games. I think that'll take a toll as the season goes along. They need a little bit of a breather, not to make a statement, Haley, but just to take the foot off the gas a little bit. And maybe that could happen this Sunday against Carolina, a team that's still kind of trying to find its legs at Lambeau Field. as the calendar's turning to November, on paper, this should be a Packer win. They're favored by 12.5 points.
All right, so hopefully that's kind of our more easy victory. We'll keep our eye on that one Sunday. Okay, so you were just talking key injuries. I feel this because I'm playing fantasy football for the first time this year. My quarterback was Joe Burrow. Painful. My wide receiver, Tyreek Hill. Painful. So I wanted to ask you, because, we were talking about as seen by TVV last time, who do you think I should start as my quarterback this week? We have two options, Tim. One, Caleb Williams, of course, the quarterback of the Chicago Bears. He was on the bench. He's been playing for me, hit or miss. Or I did pick up Brock Purdy, who potentially should be back this week. What are your thoughts?
I'm intrigued, by the way, at your roster. That sounds good. Caleb Williams, is going to play. He's going to play all the snaps. The guy's very durable. Say what you will about him so far in his NFL career. He takes the ball for the Bears, so he's going to be in there. Purdy obviously has been up and down with the health issues. Mac Jones didn't play real well last time out, so I think the Niners do want to go to Purdy at this point. And the Niners are coming off a loss. Bears too, but the Niners are coming off a loss. I'd go Brock Purdy, Haley, given those options.
Okay, I'm going to do Brock Purdy then. I'll switch that one here pretty soon. While I have you too, let's switch gears really quickly to the Bucs. They obviously just started their season last Wednesday. What are you thinking so far? How are things going?
3 wins in 4 games, including an impressive one last night against the New York Knicks downtown, and it is Giannis. I'll tell you what, if you have a fantasy basketball team, Haley, Giannis. The guy loads up the stats. He scores the points. He grabs the rebounds, even gets some assists. The Bucs are off to a positive start. Last year, they were off to a dreadful start, and they had to play catch-up all season long. This year, they're off to a nice start. They've opened some eyes, I think. I personally think they are a legitimate Eastern Conference team. I know in the power rankings going into the season, at one point, theathletic.com had them at 20 in the overall NBA. I'm like, 20? What in the world? That's vastly underrating the Bucs. And I think, if you're doing power rankings now after the first week or so of the season, the Bucs would be well up on that list above 20.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like, don't make them an underdog. They don't like that. They'll come out right away and prove you wrong there. And then finally, really quickly, World Series. Obviously, sadly, Brewers are not there, but it's been a wild World Series so far. Obviously, we're tied 2-2. We had an 18-inning game there. What are you expecting to see? Who do you think is going to come out victorious here?
Well, now it's 2-2, so it's a 3-game series, and it really could go either way. I don't know about you. A lot of people still on sleep deprivation from that 18-inning game, Haley, which was just a classic. Dodgers win that, but the Blue Jays jump right back. As impressive as that Dodger 18 and as memorable as that 18-inning win was, hey, the Blue Jays square the series with a very workmanlike victory last night. So now, best of 3 starting tonight in Los Angeles. And then the series switches back to Toronto. I think with it going back to Toronto, I'd give the Blue Jays a chance in this thing.
Yeah, I feel like it's just nice whenever you can get kind of that evenly matched World Series. And that's definitely what we have here. All right, Tim, thanks so much for joining us, giving us all of our Packers updates, even speaking Bucs and World Series with us. Always a good time to have you on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Well, I appreciate it, Haley, and it's cool to be at Fox 6 when you think about it, too. The World Series on Fox and this Sunday's Packers game against Carolina on Fox. So we're where you want to be.
That's right, Fox 6. We've got you covered with everything. That's a good reminder. Thanks, Tim. Always good to hear from Tim. And I'm glad I got my advice there because I was probably going to go Caleb Williams. But now I have the real expert leading the way, telling me to go with Brock Purdy, which I was proud of. I picked him up off of the waivers because somebody dropped him when he got injured. You can't do that because I'm keeping my eye on those waivers when it comes to fantasy football. My former quarterback, Joe Burrow, he's on my injured reserve, Delaney, okay? I was not going to just get rid of him because he's out for 3 months. There's an injury spot for a reason. So whoever let go of Brock Purdy, hopefully they're going to pay for it since I picked him up.
Right?
Yeah. Do you think we're going to win this week?
I think you'll win.
Okay.
Yeah, you've been on the up.
We have. I mean, I feel like I win 2 and then I lose 1 and then I win 1 and then I lose 1. But if I win this week, that means the girl on first will have lost because I'm playing her. So then there's one other girl ahead of me. I need her to also lose, and then we'll all be tied for first, which means we're one step closer to what?
The Wild Pizza Party.
The Wisconsin Live Desk Pizza Party. That's what we're doing if I win fantasy football. We are dedicating the money to the pizza party. And also maybe, Delaney, for a fan for the Wild room. It's a little toasty in here today.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah.
It's a little warm back there.
It's a little warm back there. So I think we're going to take a quick break so that I can get some airflow in the room, and then we'll be back in 2 minutes with more news. We'll see where we're going to go next. Delaney, do you want to toss us to break?
We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Thanks, Delaney.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. We are inching our way towards 2 p.m., which means we've got about half an hour left together, you and myself, and then Ben Handelman is coming in at 2:30. He'll get you rounded out on the Wisconsin Live Desk. As a reminder, we are live and local every single day, Monday through Friday, from 12:30 to 3:30 on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Well, we've got you covered with all things sports. Now I actually want to get us back out to D.C. I know when Donovan was on, we were hearing from Democrats on the government shutdown. Now we are hearing from Republican senators, and you'll see their Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson in the background. So we're going to listen in and hear what they have to say.
Johnson.
Thank you, Chairman Grassley. I want to thank the chairman. I want to thank his staff for their tenacity and their cooperation in all of our joint investigations. I think it's important to note that the records that we are now making public and for personal transparency were not obtained from the agency. They were obtained through a whistleblower. So my first point is we need more whistleblowers. We need people, men and women inside these agencies who have integrity, who want to see the integrity and credibility of the Department of Justice, of the FBI restored, come forward. Because right now I think Kash Patel, Pam Bondi are overwhelmed by all the messes they're trying to clean up. The agencies have been, lost a lot of personnel. People simply couldn't serve the Trump administration. It's hard to hire people because of all the lawfare. And there's still partisan actors burrowed in trying to sabotage their efforts. So we need whistleblowers. The reason they come forward to Chairman Grassley is because he's been such a champion of whistleblowers. So again, I thank him for that. What is revealed in those 1,700 pages of documents, in those 197 subpoenas, is nothing short of a Biden administration enemies list. I'm old enough to understand how toxic a term that was under Richard Nixon. This is far worse, orders of magnitude worse. People need to understand how politicized the Biden administration turned all these agencies. And again, the best way to describe President Biden's attitude were his exact quotes. How he thought basically half America were domestic terrorists. In September 2022, in front of Independence Hall, he said, Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundation of our republic. A year later, in New York City, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Now, nothing could be further from the truth. That is a level of paranoia that's actually astonishing. But the fact that 38 Wisconsinites are on that enemies list. I know most of those individuals. They are God-fearing, country-loving, law enforcement supporting people who want to see America succeed. The fact that they are on a Biden administration enemies list, were targeted by that administration, is outrageous. It should shock every American. And so I am calling on, and I appreciate all the members of the Judiciary Committee, we need to get to the bottom of this. We need to do everything we can to assist Director Patel and AG Bondi in making sure that they have the staff to take control of these agencies. They're the heads of them. I don't think they have the control. I think they're being sabotaged within. But the American people need to understand exactly what happened. And again, I'm calling on members of the Judiciary Committee to help Senator Grassley and myself get to the bottom of this so we can expose this, so this doesn't happen again in America. This has to end. With that, I'll turn it over to Senator Cornyn.
All righty, if you are just joining us, we were listening in here. The feeds did updates. This is actually not them talking on the government shutdown, which you might have picked up on. This is actually the Arctic Frost Oversight Committee kind of providing an update. So what this is a Senate Judiciary Committee that is investigating what they say was the FBI targeting Republican senators and groups. So we did just hear from Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson, who is a Republican, talking about kind of, Wisconsinites, different leaders and politicians that have potentially been investigated there by the FBI. So we'll keep our eye on that. We'll also keep our eye on just the different feeds to see if we can find any Republican lawmakers talking about the government shutdown. That way we can bring you both sides here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. But that was Ron Johnson there talking a little bit about, again, that's the Arctic Frost Oversight Committee. Speaking of Wisconsin, I want to take another live look outside where the blue skies are there. It's kind of nice. It's a little bit frosty. Not really. It's just 53 degrees, but it feels cold after having a nice, unseasonably warm fall. And now that it's nearly November, those cooler temperatures, they are starting to trickle in. I, once again, was wearing my winter coat this morning. I actually was also wearing my winter coat in the newsroom, which when this one walked in, she made fun of me. She said, "What is it called in the newsroom today?"
Well, sometimes the newsroom is freezing, so I just wanted to see.
Yeah.
I was going to have to keep my coat on all day.
It was cold when I first got here, and then I just got lazy. Let me tell you,
No, I get that.
We're not wearing the coat in here because, again, I'm in a sauna today in here, so different experience. But you did pull out the winter coat.
I did pull out the winter
because
coat.
last time you were like, I think I'm going to have to do that soon.
Yeah, the winter coat has been pulled out, especially in the morning.
Yep.
It's still pretty cold.
It's definitely those days where you have to dress in layers, where, when you're, especially, I leave my apartment at like 5:30, so it's pretty cold, and then it will slowly warm up. So good time to just dress in layers the next probably week or so,
Yeah,
maybe month, who
definitely.
knows?
Right?
We need to get a weather expert in here because they'll actually have the real answers. I'm just guessing the forecast, but our weather experts, they know the forecast. So
Yeah, we'll check in with Stephanie later.
We will. I figured while we have you here, though, we should do a question of the day.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. It's National Cat Day. So, Delaney, did you have a cat growing up?
I did.
Tell me more.
When I was 5, I got a farm cat. I named her Candy.
Which you said was not what your dad was kind of wanting.
No, so the cat was black, white, and brown and orange, and its paws were all white. It looked like she had socks on, so my dad really wanted to name her Socks, but since it was my cat, I got to choose. And I guess I thought she looked like a piece of candy.
I love that. I did not have a cat growing up. I am definitely more of a dog person, so I had a dog growing up. I have a dog now who I love so much. You have a dog, of course, as well. I did ask you when you were naming Candy if you were an Aaron Carter fan.
I was.
Yeah.
I
want candy.
Great song.
Great song. I am being Lizzie McGuire for Halloween, as you know. Do you remember when Aaron Carter was on an episode of Lizzie McGuire?
I completely forgot about it until now. But
Iconic.
yeah, that was iconic.
Iconic. We cannot get enough of Aaron Carter and Hillary Duff together. Good times, good times. Okay, so you prepared true or false for us?
I have.
Okay, I'm going to pull it up here. True or false? National Cat Day was started to bring awareness to cats that need to be rescued. I'm going to go true, Delaney.
This one is true. In 2005, a lifestyle writer wanted to recognize the number of cats that needed to be rescued each year from different shelters.
I love that. Are you going to rescue a cat to celebrate National Cat Day?
I am probably not. I think I'm definitely more of a dog person now, but I do still like cats.
Yeah, I think that pros and cons to both. You know what? Like, if you are not home a lot, a cat would actually be a good option, right? Like, they just need a litter box. They don't need a ton of exercise. They can satisfy themselves. A dog needs to go outside. A dog needs to go on regular walks. But I personally think that a dog just like cuddles with you and loves you more than cats.
Dogs are definitely more affectionate than cats.
Yeah.
But pros and cons to both.
Pros and cons to both. I was asking you because nowadays the personality thing is, are you more of a black cat or a golden retriever? And you said you thought I was more of a golden retriever.
Yeah, I think you're more golden retriever. You're just a little more energetic.
Yeah.
You're outgoing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that in life I'm ambiverted, which means I can be extroverted or I can be introverted. And so I feel like maybe I'm a black dog. Where like I think that there are definitely moments where I'm like outgoing and like want to be your best friend, golden retriever vibe. And then there's time where I'm definitely black cat, where it's like you can just stay away from me today. Like I want to be alone. So I feel like maybe it's.
I feel like that's true for a lot of people. You can
Yeah.
kind of fall in both.
Right.
Depends on the day.
What about you?
I don't know. I think I'm more black cat. What do you think?
I think you're a golden retriever wearing a black cat costume.
Oh.
I think that Delaney can be like more quiet and you keep to yourself until you make a connection with someone and then your personality flourishes.
Yeah, that's very true.
So I think that like you're actually a golden retriever, but on the outside you put the,
Like
the costume on.
disguise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also think you probably enjoy your alone time. I think everyone does.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true. I think most people fall into both.
Yeah.
Just depends.
I totally agree. I also feel like because this day was started to bring awareness to cats that need to be rescued, we should give a shout out to the black cats and the black dogs because statistically, if your animal is black, they are less likely to be adopted. People want the golden retriever. Did you know this?
I've heard that.
Yeah.
More about black cats, but yeah.
It is
I've
the
heard
same
that.
for dogs as well.
Interesting.
And so just a reminder that they are just as great. My dog is a black lab beagle, and I love Zobrist. He's so cute. Although, I'm getting sad because he's starting to get a lot of gray around his chin, and
yeah.
he is going to be turning 6 in December, which I'm just getting a little sad about. But my friend Taylor always says, it's not gray hair, it's just sugar because he's so sweet.
Yeah, that's what we call my dog is like sugaring around her face.
Yeah.
And we're just like, oh, it's just some sugar.
Yeah.
She's not graying.
She's not graying.
No.
It's just some sugar.
She's not getting that old.
No. I did notice with Zobrist that like when he was turning maybe 2 or 3 is when like the grays had started, and I adopted him. They guessed that he was like 7 months old when I adopted him, and so you can bet your bottom dollar the next time I went to the vet I said, is my dog actually this age or is he older? And they were like, no, we think that was accurate. Because I was getting nervous that he was like already 6 or something. And I was like,
yeah.
my heart can't handle that.
No.
Dogs really are. Sorry to make National Cat Day all about dogs, but dogs really are man's best friend.
They are.
They are. All right, I think we're going to take another quick break, Delaney, and then we'll have some surprises in store afterwards.
Sounds good.
Sounds like a plan. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
everybody. Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. It is Haley with you for about the next 15 minutes. Then again, Ben Handelman is taking over to get you to 3:30. Delaney just put up my name super, so she loves when I quickly go somewhere else. But we're taking a look at Mitchell International Airport where, oh goodness, I wonder if it's windy out there. I am not the biggest fan of flying. Delaney and I have talked about this before. So when it's windy or stormy or any of those things, oof, which let me tell you, coming back from Florida, we flew through some scary thunderstorms, but we lived to tell the tale. We missed a takeoff that happened just a few minutes ago. So I'll keep my eye on Mitchell International Airport, and I will let you know if we see anything. Of course, a lot of people are paying attention to airports these days because of the government shutdown. Of course, TSA agents, air traffic control workers, all of those people not being paid right now. So a lot of people, when they're flying, they're getting a little nervous. Do I need to get there earlier, or is my flight going to be delayed? I can tell you from my experience flying this past weekend, as far as getting through security, I did not notice a difference. Obviously, the longer that the government shutdown potentially goes on, that might change. I did notice a difference when it came to air traffic controllers. There was a shortage at MCO, which is the airport in Orlando, so we all had to pretty much fly off of one runway, which led to some long lines of planes. I think we were plane 14 to take off, which does take you about 40-45 minutes to get off the ground. So we are already seeing some impacts from people who, you know, they can't just continue to work without getting a paycheck. For some, it's possible. For others, it's not. They might have to go and find another job in the meantime to make sure that they can still make ends meet. So, of course, day 29 of the government shutdown, and we'll keep our eye on any updates that come out of D.C. Speaking of D.C., the Fed chair is actually currently giving an update on some interest rates cuts. He's been talking for a little bit, so we don't know when it's going to end, but we are going to dip into this and hear what he has to say.
Changed. You know, there will be an argument. I don't know how persuasive it will be, but there will be an argument that, you know, you slow down when you can't see as far ahead. Others may argue, I mean, I'm not sure where this argument will come up, but you're perfectly right that you could also argue, well, things haven't really changed, but you might not know that, you know. So I don't know whether we'll face this or not. I hope we don't. I hope by the time of the December meeting we're getting, you know, a better flow of data. But if we're going to have to do our jobs one way or the other.
Okay. I also just wanted to ask a FinReg question. I think several years ago you said the overall amount of capital in the system was about right. As the Fed moves forward with a revised Basel proposal, potentially changes to the GSIB surcharge, has that changed at all? Or are you planning to significantly reduce the amount of capital in the system? Thanks.
So there are discussions going on, I think, among the agencies, and I don't want to get ahead of those discussions. I continue to think that the level of capital, when I said that in 2020, was about right. And of course, there's been much capital added since then through various mechanisms. But I look forward to I know those discussions are really just getting going. They haven't come to the point where they're got a whole plan and that kind of thing. So I really don't have much to say on that.
Brian. Hi, Chairman Powell. Brian Chung with NBC News. Is the weakness in the jobs market accelerating, and who's at risk if the interest rate cuts are not the effective medicine for a further slowdown in the labor market?
So we do not see the weakness, as you put it, the weakness in the job market accelerating. I would say, then again, we didn't get the September employment report, payroll report, but we look at, you know, the unemployment insurance claims, initial claims, are reported at the state level, and we still get those, and we can accumulate them and get the national number. And there's really, I mean, no story. You can look at the numbers. Same thing with the job openings we get from Indeed. There's just no story over the last 4 weeks. It's kind of stable. So you don't see anything that says that the job market is, or really any part of the economy is making a significant deterioration. Don't see that. You see more things like I mentioned, though, which is you see big companies making announcements of either of layoffs or of the idea that they won't need to hire. Their number of employees is not expected to go up over a number of years. There may be different people working there. They say that too, but they don't need a bigger head count. So you see those kinds of things. You don't see it in the aggregate numbers. The layoff numbers have not gone up. but job creation is very low. And the job finding rate for people who are unemployed is very low. But the unemployment rate is very low as well. 4.3% is a low unemployment rate.
So as you make these cuts, is it the lower income workers that you're thinking about, or those who might have their jobs automated? Is there a particular
that we're
section
thinking
of
of
the labor market that you're particularly?
So we can't, our tools don't allow us to target any demographic or any income level and that kind of thing. I do think that people, we saw this during the global financial crisis and the long recovery. If you have a long period of very strong labor market conditions, it benefits people at the lower end the most. The last 2 or 3 years of that long expansion, people at the lower part of the income spectrum were getting the biggest benefits, and lots of things were happening in that space demographically, which were very constructive. And we're not at that place right now. But so, yeah, a stronger labor market is the best thing we can do for the public. It's also part of our job. It is half of our job, but it is absolutely the best thing we can do for people. Along with keeping prices stable, those two things. Inflation also hurts people on fixed incomes more than other people.
Alrighty, if you're just joining us, we were listening in there as the Fed kind of gave some updates after some rate cuts earlier today. But now we're going to switch gears and we're going to talk the weather. Taking a live look outside here in Milwaukee, you can see that it is a dry one out there, albeit maybe a little bit windy. We've noticed that wind now on a couple of cameras, but it's also just kind of the seasonal temperatures that you would expect there. We have 53 degrees today, so a lot to go out and enjoy still. But our hearts and our minds continue to actually be in Jamaica and Cuba and the Bahamas, as of course they're dealing with Hurricane Melissa. Stephanie, what's the latest here? I know the storm has now made its way to Cuba.
It's actually passing Cuba now and approaching the Bahamas. So it is still on its northerly track here. Eventually it's going to start to move more northeastward, but throughout the rest of today into early tomorrow morning, parts of the Bahamas will feel the impacts of this storm. And it's still a hurricane. It's still a Category 2 storm at the moment. But just to recap what we've seen, I know it looks a lot messier than what it did yesterday as it was approaching Jamaica. But again, it is still a pretty strong hurricane. 2 landfalls so far from Melissa. One, of course, yesterday in western Jamaica, one early this morning just after 4 a.m. in eastern Cuba. The landfall in Jamaica, of course, was a Category 5. The landfall in eastern Cuba, Category 3, but still had wind gusts over 160 miles per hour. So even though it was, slightly lower than what it was when it made landfall in western Jamaica, really not terribly noticeable. 165 mile per hour winds compared to 185, still very up there, as we can all somewhat imagine, right? So here's the latest track for the rest of today. And again, this is still a Category 2 storm, max sustained winds of 100 miles per hour, but gusts are over 120. It will likely continue to impact parts of the Bahamas, kind of moving right in the middle there of a couple of those islands, but still bringing hurricane conditions to both islands towards the west, both islands and islands towards the east. And notice even as it passes the Bahamas, it remains a Category 2 storm. Now later tomorrow night, so Thursday night, it'll skirt portions of Bermuda, so maybe not direct landfall, but the outer bands are still going to impact that island, and then it will continue to move northward, more so closer to Canada, and then stay out over the Atlantic. Now here's a look at our Fox weather model here, just to kind of put it into perspective for you model-wise to see what it could potentially do in the coming hours. So notice how the eye here of the storm really does pass between a few of these islands and then eventually takes more of that northerly track here throughout tomorrow. Here's Bermuda right here, so it still gets very, very close later Thursday night. Absolutely going to be dealing with the outer bands there, and still forecast to be either a high-end Category 1 at that point or still a lower-end Category 2. We need to remember that Bermuda has already been hit twice so far this tropical season by 2 separate hurricanes, and this one will likely be the third. And then you'll notice Friday on into the weekend how it starts to move up towards the north and eventually will fizzle out. Now we do actually have only a few cameras, but at least 2 to 3 in parts of the Bahamas. This is one from Nassau. So the storm is still pretty far south of Nassau, but I think this will be a really good camera to watch later on this afternoon, well, more so later on this evening, as the storm gets a little bit closer. You can tell maybe waves picking up a little bit, and there are still some clouds, but all is calm for the most part in that area. But there will still be, headlines of this storm, I think, through Friday because of what is still potentially to come for the Bahamas and then maybe Bermuda. Now back closer to home, we're pretty much lucking out here, Haley. All the rain is towards the southeast of us. Wisconsin is enjoying sunshine with just a few clouds mixed in between. As you mentioned, there is quite the wind out there. Wind direction is out of the east-northeast. It's sustained up to 20 miles per hour, gusting up to 25. So yes, it is a blustery day here in southeast Wisconsin. But overall, we're still looking at really nice conditions for the rest of the week. We're rain-free until maybe Friday night, maybe Saturday, a couple of sprinkles. It does not look to be a huge rain chance here locally. Not concerned about trick-or-treating at all. But past that, it may not be until the first week of November, towards the end of next week. Hard to believe that next week is already November.
I know.
But towards the end of next week that we see some rain moving in. So we're still holding steady with this pattern of quiet conditions, temperatures that will eventually be above average in these low and middle 50s. So it's great weather to end October and start November. So we'll see how long we can keep it going, but eventually here, we are going to need some rain.
That's right, I know. But then it's like a good news when you finally get the rain, when you need it.
True.
So we'll take it that way. I wanted to ask you quickly, going back to the tropics and hurricanes, how often or how many landfalls is average for a hurricane? Because this is seeming like a lot, talking about Jamaica and Cuba.
Sure.
Bahamas is next. Is this above average for a hurricane, or is this what's normal?
That's a great question. I don't think it's terribly common, especially in such a short time frame. I believe it's less than 24 hours for two separate landfalls between Jamaica as well as eastern Cuba. So I'm not sure on specifics, but I don't think it's terribly common. Probably is more common in this area because when you think of, storms that maybe develop in the Gulf, hitting, Florida, then moving back out over the Atlantic, because there are so many islands in the Caribbean specifically. I would imagine this is more so the spot where that happens. But I'd have to imagine with the fact that we had two, major landfalls here when it comes to strength in less than 24 hours, I don't think that's very common, but it will be interesting to see. I'm sure more and more stats will come out because this is going to be the type of storm also that is, researched time and time again, because it's essentially, the third strongest hurricane on record in the Atlantic at this point, between pressure, between the wind speeds at landfall. So I do think we're eventually going to, have a lot more stats about this storm in general. So it'll be very interesting to see.
Yeah, of course, we'll continue to track it. Our weather team, hopefully it continues to weaken. And you said Friday is when it should hopefully
we should be done talking about it, I think, by Friday.
All right, we'll keep our eye on that one. Thanks so much for joining us, Steph, giving us the latest on the weather.
No problem.
I do want to quickly, actually, the AP was just reporting the latest. Obviously, whenever a hurricane makes landfall as a Category 5, your heart just hurts. I mean, that is catastrophic, and that is going to be so hard for the people who live on these islands. So the death toll was recently updated by the AP, and I just wanted to give you those numbers. They are reporting at least 29 people have lost their lives in this storm in the Caribbean. That is one person out of the Dominican Republic. They're also reporting another person is missing. Out of Haiti, there are 20 dead and there are 10 missing. And then in Jamaica, there are 8 confirmed lives lost. Unfortunately, those numbers, they're expected to increase and continue to grow as people get out and they start kind of doing the assessment of damage. So again, our hearts are just in Jamaica and in the Caribbean. On the storm on its way to the Bahamas after being in Cuba. So we'll continue, again, to just cover this. If you have loved ones out there or people who have traveled, of course, try and check in with them. But we'll keep our eye on that storm. We are going to take another quick break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, and then we'll dip into a new feed when we get back. Thanks.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. The time has come to do our handover. Ben Handelman is in the wing. He's going to get you to 3:30 here. It's been a blast hanging out with you the last hour. Of course, I'll be back here again tomorrow at 1:30. I'm going to leave you actually going back to that Arctic Frost Oversight Committee out of D.C. They're answering questions, but Senator Ron Johnson is in the background there. Occasionally he takes the podium. That's Lindsey Graham, a senator out of South Carolina, talking right now. But again, Ben will be back after this. Thanks for joining me today.
Jack Smith, because they think Ted Cruz would tamper with witnesses, withhold, or destroy evidence. That's unbelievable. What made you think that? What evidence did you have? That really did shut down the systems as it's supposed to. You're supposed to tell us when we have our phone records asked for. That's actually a law somewhere. Well, the judge overrode that. Why? How could he possibly conclude that? What evidence did he have? If there's no evidence, then I think he chilled the ability of Senator Cruz to be able to react in real time and violated the way this whole system's set up. They're supposed to call us. We had a judge's order saying, don't tell Ted for a whole year because Ted may destroy evidence and tamper with witnesses. That is BS. I hope somebody will look at that.
And just one tweak. The judge didn't say I may destroy evidence. The judge signed an order that says the court finds reasonable grounds to believe that such disclosure will result in destruction of or tampering with evidence, intimidation of potential witnesses, and serious jeopardy to the investigation. And that is utterly without basis in fact. There was no evidence to support that. If the prosecutor made that representation, the prosecutor perjured himself.
Amen.
And I'd bet $20 this judge cranked out an order like that for every single senator down up here. We just happen to have mine. But it's boilerplate. If you're a Republican, you're on the enemies list, I find that you will destroy evidence, and so we're going to let the executive surveil you without Congress ever knowing about it.
Let me apologize to you for not hearing your question right.
Sir.
Can we talk about a little bit about what these subpoenas were looking at, what they were trying to pull back? Are we talking about fundraising around January 6th? We just didn't really get a clear understanding of what those subpoenas were, what they were trying to look at in these Republican organizations.
Well, an awful lot of it was about the elector case, which you have to understand. I mean, in Wisconsin, we had an alternate slate of electors. We had probably the most experienced and knowledgeable election attorney Judge Troupas, handled the president's case. He thought it in the best interest of his client that he would appoint an alternate slate of electors. So that if he prevailed, he wouldn't end up like Al Gore before the Supreme Court. Well, even if you win, you don't have an alternate slate of electors. They tried to criminalize that. Even though our Attorney General's office said that there was nothing improper about that alternate slate of electors, the news calls those fake electors. The Attorney General now of Wisconsin is trying to put Judge Troupas away for life. He's trying to criminalizing. He's indicting him on felonies. So a lot of it was about the whole alternate elector part. But, you know, by and large, it was just a weaponization. It was. I mean, the timeline, I meant to do that. I want to keep my remarks short, but let's just go through the timeline. It's important. In April of 2022, Garland approves that elector case. Okay, that's April 22. August of 22, they raid Mar-a-Lago. September 19th was the first subpoenas issued in this whole investigation. As other senators have pointed out, November 15th, Trump announces candidacy. 3 days later, Jack Smith is appointed. June 2023, Jack Smith indicts Trump. August, he indicts him again. In August 6th, there's a briefing on Jack Smith's Arctic Frost case revealing log call collection from 9 members of Congress. That happened, after all this occurred. What are they doing collecting records after that point? And the final point of this, in November of 2023, Lisa Monaco
changes the procedures on collecting telephone information or information on members of Congress. Like somebody at some point in time realized we better cover our backside. So again, this was an enemies list. This was a political witch hunt, and it's all politicized. It's all about trying to keep President Trump on office.
And let me add a little bit in answer to your question. So President Trump announced his candidacy in November of 2022. This subpoena was signed on May 25th of 2023. So it was about 6 months after he announces his candidacy. I assume the others were contemporaneous, although we don't have that information. You asked what did it cover. Here's what the attachment to the subpoena says. Provide the following records from January 4th, 2021 through January 7th, 2021. Subscriber information. Names, including subscriber names, user names, and screen names. Addresses, including mailing addresses, residential addresses, business addresses, and email addresses.
Ben Handelman here from the Wisconsin Live Desk. I'm just getting all logged in here. And that meeting we just had you, that was in Washington as a subcommittee there of Republicans questioning what happened during the last administration of certain people who were investigated, they believe unfairly, as they've now launched an investigation. So they're releasing, I think he said it was 1,700 pages of documents as they've been kind of digging into stuff that happened, obviously, during the last election, the fake electorates that were, that's what Democrats called them. They called them alternative electorates during the last election. All of that unfolding. But I want to bring you to this breaking news. College Avenue, I-94, that is a nasty crash out there on the interstate. So you're looking live right now. As you can see, traffic is moving, but it looks like it's down the one lane there. And this was initially called in as a hazmat situation. Hazmat team was called out, according to our assignment desk, and then I believe they were kind of called off the scene. But I'm not sure if that's one of the fire hazmat trucks there from the front. So you can see we have some sort of truck that is on its side, and it looks like it's taken out a bunch of maybe. Is there a light pull down with there? You can see there's construction barrels that probably were off to the side there. And those are firefighters. I-94 at College Avenue. So this is down by the airport, which this would probably create some backup. I've got traffic times here and 94. Okay, downtown the morning. Yeah, we don't have the times that are south right now. That'd be south of downtown because I believe this traffic is heading south down by College Avenue and I-94. So yeah, we're still watching this breaking news there. So again, really nasty crash out on the interstate. The good news, it looks like this just involves one vehicle, some sort of a truck. I'm not good at figuring out what, was supposed to be on the back of there, but it looks like it's containing some sort of tank on the back there of this truck that has crashed. You can see all the firefighters. I almost wonder if they're waiting for other equipment to arrive. You can see nobody's kind of rushed in here. And I haven't watched this from the very beginning to know if somebody was taken away by ambulance. But nobody's rushing around the scene. You can see all those firefighters. They're just hanging out there right now here on your live desk. So we're watching this crash down there on the south side of Milwaukee. This would also, again, this is southbound. Some sort of tank on the back of a semi. Not sure. I mean, we can't see from the camera if there's another vehicle involved farther north, closer to downtown. But this is on the 511 as this camera is starting to refresh. So we'll keep watching this right here on your live desk. Just one of the many things I'm following right now as I'm seeing some of these feeds that are following. So we got that hearing in Washington, D.C. that we've been following. Ron Johnson's been at the microphone there. We're going to have a Halloween edition in the last hour coming up. In about 20 minutes, we're going to talk some giant pumpkins, hopefully. Brett Lemoyne working on a really interesting story, and I believe he'll be joining us in just a couple of minutes here. So stay here on your Fox Local app. We'll keep you updated on this breaking news, and we'll bring you all the very latest here on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Live Desk.
All right, news nerds, you're in the right place, because if you are here, you want to see what is happening in the world at this very minute. So you are my people. Ben Handelman here, 241, that press conference we were watching in Washington, that has just ended. It's back to just a boring, empty podium in the Senate floor. We're watching this breaking news on the South Side. Look at that. That is a truck overturned. And this was initially called in as a hazmat situation. Not sure if that's still the case. The firefighters have just been kind of like hanging out. So we're waiting to see if they're waiting for some more equipment to arrive here, because nobody is rushing to clear that semi-truck. So that is happening as we speak. Something else I want to talk about is what's happening in New Berlin. And for that, I'm going to bring in my colleague, Brett Lemoyne, everybody, on the Wisconsin Live Desk. From New Berlin, Wisconsin. Brett, I know you're working on a really interesting story today. What's going on?
I mean, it's really a heartwarming story, and it's something that I think we all need. We're learning about this organization here in New Berlin. It's called A Doll Like Me. I had never heard of it before until the organizer looked us up and told us about it. It's a really cool thing. It's basically, we say an organization, it's one woman in New Berlin, and she makes custom dolls for kids all over the world. And it's all for kids that don't look like dolls that you could buy at a store. So we're talking kids that maybe have an amputation or a deformity. Even could be something just as simple as lots of freckles or birthmarks. So she makes these dolls for these kids, sends them all over the world. All 50 states she sent a doll to, and 36 countries. So her reach is quite strong, and it's just this one woman at a sewing machine at her house in New Berlin doing this.
This is crazy.
It all started on, it's amazing. It all started on social media. She had made a doll for a friend of hers, and then it posted on social media, and it kind of caught fire. So now she's been doing this for a decade. So the reason why we're doing a story about it today is because something happened over the summer that just really touched her heart and tugged at her heartstrings. And it was a little girl here in New Berlin. Her name is Nora. She's 7.5. She wanted to make sure that we said 7.5. She had a birthday over the summer, and she had a donation jar, and her mom said, "What do you want to do with all this money?" Nora said, "I want to donate it to A Doll Like Me." So she put all of her birthday money, she put all of her piggy bank money into this jar, and she brought it over to Amy. Amy's the woman who runs A Doll Like Me. She brought it over to her house here in New Berlin, left it on her doorstep, knocked on the door, and ran.
And ran away.
Amy got up and she's like, ran away, and she's like, "Who's knocking at my door?" She saw the girl and she says, "Wait a minute, come here." So they took all of this money, and they made a doll for a little girl. Her name is Bonnie in the United Kingdom. Bonnie has terminal cancer, Ben. She is just about the same age as Nora, lost all of her hair, and had to have her arm amputated as well because the cancer had spread. And doctors, I guess, had said that by amputating her arm, it gave her a few extra months of life.
Oh, wow.
And so Amy made this doll for her. Before she sent it, Nora got to hold it, give it a kiss. They put it in a box and mailed it out. And so we got this fantastic video and some pictures too.
Yeah, we're showing those
Bonnie
pictures
in the United Kingdom.
We're showing the pictures right now.
Sitting next to her.
Yeah, look at the smile on this girl's face as she's got this doll in her arms is just so touching.
Yeah, it really is. And you know, so this all kind of calls attention to this organization, A Doll Like Me, and the fact that this woman, Amy, says, you know, she's really to the point now where she can't keep doing this alone. It costs a lot of money to make, as you can imagine, a custom doll for what now she's made 1,500 of these. And so it costs a lot of money. She's looking for hopefully maybe like a business sponsor or a corporate sponsor, or at the very least someone who knows how to sew that could help Amy out. Because the waiting list right now, Ben, there are 2,000 people on the waiting list for these dolls. So I mean, it really just kind of hits you in the gut that there are so many kids out there that want a doll, you know, that looks like them.
Right.
That isn't something that, you know, you can buy in the store that looks like them and makes them feel included and makes them feel special. And so again, Amy can't do it alone. She's hoping that somebody out there will see this story and help her out. They were also, all of both of these girls and Amy were just featured last week on our sister station in Los Angeles, Good Day LA. They had a whole segment with them. And so Amy's really trying to get the word out now that she's in need of some help and some donations to keep this organization going.
This is not going to help the demand if she's, you know, being on TV stations across the country, LA, us here. Obviously, it shows how special this is for the people who are so lucky enough to get some of these dolls. But yeah, just seeing this little girl with her ice cream here, and then of course she brings the doll with her. Of course, that's what every little girl does. But it's not the same when the doll doesn't look anything like you. So yeah, it's powerful what this woman is doing. Does she have does she have a day job? Is this kind of what she's just doing at nights and weekends to get this done?
Yeah, I mean, she's a social worker by trade, which tells you a lot, right? That kind of makes sense when you think of the mission that she's on. But yeah, I mean, she spends sometimes, I think, like she said, 6 hours making just one doll. And then there's custom clothes, and sometimes, you know, kids have braces or you know, other devices too that they have put on the dolls to help them make them look like the kids, and it ends up costing a lot, you know, upwards of $100 sometimes or more. Yeah. And so again, you know, the donations are really needed. Ben, she just said that she just made a doll and sent one out to a child in Gaza who sadly lost his parents and lost both of his legs in the war in Gaza. So, you know, I mean, it really tells you, you know, how widespread and how far-reaching this is.
That they're going all around the world. All right, quickly here, if you can help or if you want to know more information, where should people go? What should they do?
Yes, and I knew you were going to ask me that, and I just want to make sure that I have it right here. It's very simply adalllikeme.com. And we'll post that on Fox Local Mobile later today, too, if anyone's interested. But adalllikeme.com. Go to that website. You can find out information on how to donate or sponsor a doll. But again, if there's anyone watching that maybe knows somebody that it's a business owner or someone that, you know, has some time on their hands and knows how to sew, that would be of tremendous help. And it really does, when you see the story tonight, Ben, when you see Bonnie's, because we have video of Bonnie in the UK getting her doll and her reaction to that doll, when you hear it, man, it's gonna make you cry.
I'm just gonna show her one more time because what a cute little girl, and I cannot wait to see.
Please do, yeah.
I cannot wait to see the video coming up later here on Fox Local as your reporting continues. So, Brett, you are a friend of the program. We appreciate every time you come on the Wisconsin Live Desk, and we appreciate you being here live from New Berlin today.
They say, whenever they say Ben Handelman is on the live desk, I go, I'm in. Put me on.
You're like, I am waiting. I am not going on any other anchor. I'm going to wait until it's at least 2:30 so you can come in the last hour here. So, all right, Brett, great story. I'm glad you're doing this. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. So, yeah, those pictures really tell the whole story. But the one person we didn't see is the woman who's behind this, and we'll see that shortly with Brett's reporting coming up. So, hey, appreciate you being here on the live desk as we get closer to 3 o'clock. I'm just going to peek back at what is going down on the south side of Milwaukee. Oh, man. It kind of looks angelic now that the sun is perfectly hitting that truck, but that's not a good thing, because that hunk of metal is now scrapped, basically. A nasty crash that we're following. This is I-94 at College Avenue, and you can see all of the Milwaukee firefighters are on the scene here as we continue to follow this breaking news live on your live desk here. This is at College Avenue. I believe that's the on-ramp up above, and this is southbound. You can see from the top of the camera there, SW, so the camera is pointing southwest. But this is I-94, so if you're coming out of the city and you're getting down by the airport, that's, you know, it's a really nasty crash right there. We can see that the first responders, they are letting traffic through. but only one lane right now, and we are getting closer and closer to rush hour here, as I'm already getting some new traffic times here. Just a second ago, this was all green, but now we're starting to see some yellow on the map, and this doesn't even include that area that is south of downtown. I wonder if we can switch this up and get the map here in a few minutes just to see the red that is starting to build there. South of the city is, again, we're dealing with this nasty crash. I-94 at College Avenue. They're letting one lane, the far left lane, by. I'm trying to see what this guy hit because I can see there's some orange barrels there that looks like they went out. I'm not sure if whatever this person was carrying, if it was sloshing around, and that's how they lost control of the vehicle. Because I don't believe this is anywhere near that curve yet, but I'm not sure if speed was a factor. All under investigation, obviously, but you're just seeing the front of it. As I'm not sure what was in there. They did call off a lot of the fire trucks that were responding as a hazmat situation, so it could just because of the fuel that may have spilled. We've got calls in to the sheriff's office to try and they would be responsible for figuring out the cause of the crash. I don't see anyone from the sheriff's department in our scene right here because right now this is a firefighter response, which tells me they are responsible for the cleanup. Oftentimes they would come in, they'd call the hazmat team, they would come in and they're specialized. Like if it's diesel fuel, hopefully that's the only issue here, they would be specialized. They'd have the equipment to clean that up, suck it up, get it off the interstate and keep it out of our waterways. Okay, now we're seeing some firefighters walk around that truck. Do you see them on the backside there? So yeah, it looks like they're doing a little bit of investigating here. Where did that guy just come from? Were they inside the cab of the truck? 3 firefighters just literally appearing on the screen. I'm not sure. Maybe they were inside. But I don't see any tow trucks here. So this is going to be an issue for a while as we try and figure out what is going on with the cleanup here as we get, I mean, we're kind of in the beginning of rush hour now as we hit towards that 3 o'clock hour. So, firefighters hanging out, and you're watching it live on the live desk. We'll keep watching this as we get some new feeds up as well. Government's still shut down. We've been following that. That's a new feed that just popped up, a beautiful shot of the Capitol. I wish it was beautiful because there are a bunch of people working inside, but there's not been a whole lot of anything going on when it comes to getting the government back open again. The president's out of town. He has a very important meeting with the president of China today as he's at the APEC meeting in South Korea, also meeting with that country as there's, again, some serious threats in that part of the world. North Korea firing off test missiles kind of as a warning shot as these world leaders are arriving in South Korea. President Trump has made it pretty clear he wants to meet with the North Korean leader once again. And it's been crickets on the North Korean side, whether that's something they are willing to do. And instead of meeting right now, they're firing off test missiles in a very dangerous part of the world as those two countries technically still at war all these years later after the Korean War. But all these world leaders are meeting as the government here back at home remains shut down. So we'll keep watching that. We'll keep watching this breaking news out on the interstate. And I got some new feeds. I'm not sure if we can take them, though, because they look like they're from overseas. So I'm going to talk with our producer, Delaney, and we'll see if we can take these new feeds when we come back in 2 minutes. You're watching the Wisconsin Live Desk exclusively here on Fox Local.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
All right, news nerds, Ben Handelman here from the Wisconsin Live Desk. We're just about to get to 3 o'clock, and we're getting new feeds all the time in here. You know the drill here. This is the show where if it's happening live, we're going to take it for you. And this is one feed that's just coming in now from Mississippi. They're having a big Turning Point USA. J.D. Vance is actually going to be there in Mississippi, and you can see all these students lined up hours before this event in the rain, it appears, in Mississippi. So we're following that. We're following the government shutdown in Washington, D.C., and moments ago, we showed you what was happening out on the interstate as that. It could be a mess here for your evening commute. But it's also Halloween, and it's also Halloween week, and I want to talk pumpkins, because one of my favorite things to do is carve out a pumpkin. But some people are really, really, really good at growing pumpkins, and I want to bring in my next guest here. He is someone who knows how to grow the biggest of the pumpkins there are out there. We're talking thousands of pounds, and I have no idea how in the world they do it. And to figure out how they do it, I brought in Mike Schmidt, who is joining us live here on the Wisconsin Live Desk from the Wisconsin Giant Pumpkin Growers. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So this must be like your busiest time of year for being in the hobby that you're in of trying to grow the largest pumpkin. How's your fall been?
Pretty good. You know, our way-offs are already wrapped up, so like now we're just kind of enjoying the pumpkins that we grew. So
you guys can grow them enormous. I am just so impressed with everything that you guys are able to do. I got some video here. This is a story that we had on our news. Some kids out in the Dane County area, the Madison area, had a goal of growing a 1,000-pound pumpkin. They came up just shy. But it had me wondering, how in the world do you grow these things? And it's a whole lot harder, I know, than just putting a seed in the ground, right? I mean, giant pumpkin growing, Mike, take me from the beginning to how you get them big. What's involved here? How's it work?
So the first thing is you got to get the right seed. A normal jack-o'-lantern pumpkin is the wrong seed. You need a Dill's Atlantic Giant. You need that correct variety. And then when we get that, we try and get an early jump on the season. So we start them seeds indoors. We grow them inside for 2 to 3 weeks. We bring them outside to small little greenhouses where we'll have soil heating cables in there and we can elevate the temperature. That way we can get them outside 2 to 3 weeks before the first frost. And then that can get the plant a good jump. And then from there, we grow the plant till about mid-June, and that's when we're looking for that female pumpkin, that female flower, and we're going to hand pollinate that so we can keep the genetics pure for the next season's coming. And hopefully our pollination will take around the 2nd to 3rd week in June, and then we'll have about 110 to 120 days before the weigh-off while the pumpkin will grow. So it'll start out the size of a golf ball, and then at its peak growth, it'll be growing 50 pounds a day. And then it'll ramp down, and then you'll end up with a pumpkin that size that you see there.
That is insane. What is it? What do you mean by hand pollination? How do you do that? What's involved when we're talking hand
Because we have such a
pollination?
specific timeline on when we want to grow the pumpkin, and we have so many days that we want to do it, we don't want to trust the bees to do it. So on a pumpkin plant, there are both female and male flowers. And it's just as simple as you take the male flower, you rub it in the female. We'll tie them all off the night before to keep them pure, to make sure no other pollen got in there. That way we know which specific pumpkin plants have bred the others to keep the genetics moving forward.
50 pounds a day. What are these pumpkins feeding off of that makes them so large?
Just your normal fertilizers, but they do take a lot of water. You can't drown them, but they need to have that adequate moisture to take in there. But they're just like any other plant. Like you can over fertilize them. You can burn them. Trust us, we've tried. But yeah, so it's just a really good balance of all the nutrients, and then just always having some nutrients available and the moisture available for them to grow.
Now, you're an expert at this. You're the treasurer of the Wisconsin Giant Pumpkin Growers. So how long have you been doing this? And obviously, there's got to be a lot of complications along the way when we're talking disease, I'm guessing rot with all that water. Like, what are some of the challenges? But how long have you been doing this?
So I've been growing for 9 years. Yeah, there are a lot of challenges. Some of the challenges we face are the different insects the cucumber beetle, which can vector diseases to the plant, squash vine borer, which will burrow into the plant and it'll have larvae in there they'll just kill your plant. So you got to keep the bugs under control, which will help keep the disease under control. But also too, if you have poor draining soil and the roots stay wet for too long, you can get root rot, which will kill your plant. So yeah, there's always something, and because we're always breeding them specifically for size, there's potential that we've bred out some resistance to some of those other things because we're only looking for one trait, and that's the heaviest pumpkin.
Yeah. Is this one of your babies here? Is this one that you grew?
Yeah, every one of those is my babies.
How many pounds? I'll show the different pictures, but how many pounds are these pumpkins?
So the one you see on the screen right there, that one ended up weighing 1,858 pounds. That one weighed 1,716.
I like that you can remember right down to the exact pound too for how much these were.
and that one was 2,106. Well, a couple of them got the scale picture in the background, so I'm not joshing you.
2,106, 2,106 pounds.
Yep.
Do you know what the record is for a Wisconsin pumpkin or the biggest pumpkin ever grown?
So the state record is 2,551 pounds. That's grown by Jim Ford. The world record is 2,819.3 pounds, grown by the Peyton twins in England. And what's crazy about that world record England pumpkin, if you trace back the genetics, like we talked about how we're keeping everything pure, 3 of my pumpkins appear in the genetics of that world record. So that's kind of cool.
The fact that you're tracing the lineage of a pumpkin amazes me here, Mike. Is just insane. How is Wisconsin stack up? We've got similar conditions, obviously, to England. Is this a good giant pumpkin growing state?
Yeah, absolutely. Wisconsin's one of the top states in the country for growing giant pumpkins. I think we have the most growers of any state that have grown a pumpkin over 2,000 pounds, and I don't even know what that number is, but we have a lot. We always place high up in the world every year. So yeah, it's one of the best states to grow in.
I love it. And I mean, you just can't grow it and bring it to the competition. You need some serious equipment to move a 2,000-pound pumpkin sometimes. How in the world do you move these things without breaking them?
So yeah, in your video there, you can see they got a little special kind of lifting ring. They got straps going down. You cinch a rope around the bottom and lift them up. So like those guys there, they're using a skid steer, or you could use a big tractor, but my tractor only lifts 1,600 pounds. So I got a big steel A-frame, and then I lift mine up with a chain hoist, and I actually just back the trailer underneath it then and set it down on there. So yeah, if you're gonna grow them over like 400 pounds, you're gonna need some equipment.
I'm guessing there have been stories of guys who have made it to the finish line with their pumpkin and they go to move it and it breaks.
Absolutely. So I had one that I suspected I knew was going down a little bit. When I lifted it this year, it literally cracked or whatever. So, but typically though, the pumpkins, they're strong. Some of the walls are like 16 inches thick or whatever. Wow. So if you got a good sound pumpkin, like there's no worry of it splitting when you lift. If you got a thinner pumpkin or one that may have started rotting on you accidentally, like yeah, they can split when you pick them, or like even bouncing down the trailer on the way there.
Oh yeah,
we've had growers have that happen to them.
I'm going 5 miles an hour if I ever get a pumpkin this big and somehow figure out how to get it onto a truck to go to these competitions. I learned this from your Facebook group. There's some serious money in the pumpkin growing competitions.
Yep, there is.
I mean, we're talking hundreds of dollars you can win if you've got the prize pumpkin.
Oh, I've won a couple weigh-offs that paid $5,000 to win. There's a weigh-off in California. I believe they pay $9 a pound, and sometimes guys drive from the Midwest there, and they've won it. So
did this pumpkin get you some money?
That one won me $5,000.
$5,000.
I was debating to take that one to California, and I didn't. If I would have, I could have won, and they were paying $7 a pound then, but that's okay. We weighed that one just across the river in Minnesota, so try and keep it a little local,
Now, the big competitions, I saw there's a competition in Mishicot, up there in Manitowoc County. Fond du Lac, though, is that the biggest competition of the year?
That's our new way off. So we have 4 way offs here in Wisconsin that our club supports. So those Mishicot, Nakusa, Fond du Lac, and Altoona, Wisconsin. So our bigger money one is the Altoona one. They're all great way offs, and we support all of them. So you can only bring one pumpkin. You can only bring the pumpkin to one way off. You can't bring it to multiple way offs. So,
how many do you start with in your field? I mean, obviously you're looking for 4 good pumpkins if there's 4 way offs, and you can only bring a pumpkin to one festival. So, how many what's your field look like?
well, honestly, I usually only do 2 to 3 competitive pumpkins because the amount of work I put in the summer, it's roughly at peak can be 7 hours per plant per week. So, I got to kind of limit how much I'm out there working. So a lot of years lately, I've only been doing 2, but sometimes 3. And then I'll have some off to the side that I won't call competition pumpkins, just kind of grow for fun. And this year I grew one that was just under 800 pounds hydroponically outside. So that was just kind of a fun little experiment too. So
Do you have do you live on a big piece of property or a farm?
yeah, we have 5 acres here. So
plenty of room for
we've
pumpkins.
got some space.
I mean, now I'm starting to think if I want to grow a pumpkin, 7 hours a week, what's the work entail?
Well, that's the thing. If you want to grow at the high level, that's how much time you need to put in. But if you want to grow a nice 500-pounder to put on your porch, you don't need anywhere near that time. So the time's kind of exponential with how big you want your pumpkin to be. So sometimes, yeah, we tell everyone what we do, and we end up scaring people off, and we don't want to scare people off from growing giant pumpkins. So it's as much work as you want to do. You just want to keep it healthy and keep it watered and get it to the finish line. And it's not really that hard to get a 500-pound pumpkin or even bigger. A lot of people do their first year. So
what is the work? I mean, what do you spend your 7 hours doing? Is that all watering and weeding and?
So everywhere there's a leaf on a pumpkin plant, there's also a root that'll go down. And there's a root that'll go down on the bottom, and there's one on the top. In order to get that root, you got to block the light. So we bury that with soil so you can get for sure the bottom root and the top root. So a lot of times the bottom root will kind of come naturally, but in order to get that top root, you got to put soil on there. So these plants are about 1,000 square feet. So we're out there burying the vines all the time to get that extra root. And then not only that, like I said, they take a little bit of water because they're decent sized. It takes me about 30 minutes every day just to water them and then bury the vines. And then we're always inspecting for insects. We also got to train the vines, prune the vines, because also everywhere where there's a leaf, there's another vine that'll come out. And if you're not trimming these vines and keeping them pruned the way you want, you'll end up with a big old jungle, and then you'll have no airflow, and then you can invite disease and stuff as well that way. So,
do your neighbors think you're crazy? Are you out there talking to your pumpkins?
Yeah, some people think I'm crazy, but some of my neighbors grow pumpkins too. So then
I bet it's infectious.
Then we go visit each other and see what's going on.
I honestly, I kind of want to give it a go. Granted, I live in like the burbs, and my neighbor's right on top of me, and I have like not even a quarter an acre, so I don't know where I'd put this thing. I'll just put it right in the middle of the grass.
Yeah, we've had people grow them right in their front yard, just like their whole lawn, just pumpkins. So it might look a little tacky, but I think that's a pretty good idea.
Instead of cutting my lawn, I'll just put all my time into my pumpkin. I won't have to worry about the lawn as much if there's a giant pumpkin blocking all the sunlight for it.
Exactly.
All right, what's great about you guys is, I mean, you talked about it. You don't want to scare people away. I love this because there is serious money involved. But you're part of this, the Wisconsin Giant Pumpkin Growers. You want to see more people get involved here. So if I'm a newbie and I want to learn how to get the seeds, where I'm sure that's step number one, what do you do? Where's the first place you send people?
So you go to our website, and then I'd become a member. And then we have a seed distribution that is included with the membership. So we'll get you some seeds to get started. And then we usually have a spring seminar. And then at that spring seminar, you can meet up with all sorts of growers just like me, talk, and then we'll have, actual presentations and stuff like that, answer your questions, get you going. So yeah, we're a social club, and we all help each other out, even though it's competition, it's just a great thing.
I love it. I'm fascinated by it. I've learned so much just in the last 15 minutes here. What do you guys do with the pumpkins when the way off is over and this time of year? What happens now?
So, sometimes they get sold for display, sold for carving. Some growers, they put a lot of effort into them. They like to keep them themselves. Sometimes they get dropped off cranes. Sometimes they get made into boats. Sometimes they get blown up with tannerite. It just all depends what the grower wants to do with it. So,
Where's your giant pumpkins this year sitting right now?
mine's still sitting at my house. It's actually on the trailer. I got to carve it yet. I've been a little lazy, but we carve it. And I was actually thinking about making some giant pumpkin wine out of it. So I don't know. I'm not a winemaker, but I just thought that might be interesting.
Okay, that sounds like a whole nother interview that we could spend time on because I did not even know that exists. I don't even want to know how long it will take to carve those suckers because they're so big, and now I know how thick they are. Mike Schmidt, thanks for coming on here. This was great. I love this.
No problem.
Okay,
Thanks for having me.
And right here on our Fox Local app, hopefully we can send people your way. Appreciate you coming on here, the Wisconsin Live Desk. That is awesome. I can't believe all the stuff that goes into creating a giant pumpkin. I knew I had a lot of questions. A lot of them were just answered. What a great interview there. All right, stay with us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. More live feeds are coming in. We're going to continue that breaking news that's happening out on the interstate with that truck crash that's happening right now as we're kind of in the home stretch here of our hour. So stay with us here on Fox Local.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey, News Nerds, Ben Handelman from the Wisconsin Live Desk. 3:16, we're following breaking news out on the interstate. I want to show you this crash that we've been following, and this is the first time we've gotten the wider angle here. So let's just break down what's happening on I-94 at College Avenue. Now, they are letting traffic by this crash. Left lane appears to be open, but man, we're getting close to rush hours. We're getting closer to the 4 o'clock hour. We're kind of in rush hour once you hit the 3 o'clock hour in Milwaukee. So let's just break down everything that's on your screen here. At the top of your screen, those are some 2 new tow trucks that have just arrived on the scene here. Those are the big boys. Those are the tow trucks that are brought in, and maybe this is what the firefighters have been waiting for. When you have a big truck, something that's really heavy, that has fallen over or crashed here. Then we can see the main, it looks like a semi-truck. I've had a hard time, and maybe you guys have a better idea what's on the back of there. It looks like a big tank of some sort. This was originally called in as kind of a hazmat situation, but now some of those crews we've just been listening have been called off. So, but we can see Look at all the firefighters, and they've just been kind of waiting. I think they've been waiting for the tow trucks to arrive, but that's now happened. And look at the top of the screen. I think that's the on-ramp there over at College. This is down by the airport. You can see there's firefighters up there, and it looks like some sort of cruise at the top of the hill. Farther back, I'm not sure if that's a second vehicle that's involved in this crash, but it is pointed perpendicular to the roadway. Although, yeah, I mean, your guess is as good as mine if that's law enforcement or that's a vehicle that's actually involved there. But we just kind of watching this shot here all this afternoon as these firefighters have been on the interstate, and this is going to be kind of a mess this afternoon because I'm guessing it's still going to take them some time to clear this wreck. So if you have friends that take I-94, they leave. If you're going south of the city from downtown, let your friends know, because once you go over the high-rise bridge that goes over the Menominee Valley, where you can see Potawatomi off in the distance, if you're going south of the city, it gets ugly down there. As we're following this crash, so we'll keep watching that. I'm watching this shot from Mississippi, Turning Point USA. They're going to hold a big rally. This is Charlie Kirk's. Was his organization when he was alive. And now Turning Point USA has been continuing to hold huge rallies. J.D. Vance, we're told, will be at tonight's rally in Mississippi. And the rain has not stopped thousands of people, it appears, from lining up to listen to the speakers down there in a state that obviously solidly red in Mississippi. I believe this might be on a college campus there, but you can see as the line is slowly moving as they got to all go through security now to get inside that event. But that is something we are watching here on your Wisconsin Live Desk. Got a new picture. Beautiful day here in Wisconsin. That's the Fox River. Me and Delaney were testing our geography of Wisconsin. I believe it's Oshkosh, but I could be wrong. It's been a while since I have been to downtown Oshkosh, and I don't remember apartments like that, because Green Bay's got a very similar look as well. So I don't know if that's a shot from Green Bay either. I'm going to get calls about this, aren't I? Because I feel like I'm failing my fellow Wisconsinites. That I don't know exactly.
This is from Green Bay.
Oh, it is Green Bay.
Yeah.
Okay. It is Green Bay. Got the right river. We're in the right area.
Fox Valley, right area.
Yeah, Fox Valley.
Fox River, you knew that.
They have a beautiful river walk there right along. If you've ever, everyone thinks Green Bay Packers, but if you ever actually go downtown, the convention center is over here. I've been to some political events reporting up there, and they've got restaurants, kind of like how we have a river walk here in Milwaukee. They've got the same thing up in Green Bay, and it's really beautiful. So you can see some swanky apartments if you want to live down there, that sort of a thing as well. I'm just going to change the shot up here while I have everybody and just show you what the weather looks like down here in Milwaukee. As that's a beautiful shot of our courthouse. And they're moving the camera, which can be kind of fun. I don't know who controls it here at our building, but they've just moved it. It might be actually the weather team. And there you see there's the Public Museum, which is kind of in its final days in the forefront. You got the courthouse in the background. And if you look way off in the distance, you can see me and Delaney because we're up there in Brown Deer as this camera's looking north. But yeah, really beautiful shot from Milwaukee. Another camera I have for you guys is this one that shows our beautiful City Hall. And you can see those clouds just slowly moving on by. Just a beautiful day to sit outside as we hang out here on your Wednesday. Hey, I'm going to take a quick break here because you never know what's going to pop up on the Wisconsin Live Desk, and I'm seeing we got senators talking in Washington, D.C. So what does that mean for the government shutdown? Let's find out together when we return in 2 minutes.
Desk.
Hey everybody, 324 on the Wisconsin Live Desk, and we're following a couple of different breaking news stories here. We got this crash that's out on the interstate, that's I-94 at College Avenue. They've brought the tow trucks in, and they've just kind of been literally circling that truck that's been on its side for, at least the last hour, longer than that. On the right, it's a live picture from Washington, D.C., that's the Senate floor. That is a Midwestern Senator, Amy Klobuchar, talking about tariffs right now. I've also got some breaking news that's just come into my inbox from Governor Tony Evers saying the Trump administration has denied hazard mitigation funding for Wisconsin communities after denying public assistance relief. That's the headline of the email. And according to the governor's office, they had asked for money, what's called hazard mitigation. There's a grant program. I believe this is through FEMA. It helps you, after a natural disaster, make sure that you spend money so it's better the next time if something like that were to happen again. And according to the governor, the request for that funding has been denied from the Trump administration for Door, Grant, Milwaukee, Ozaukee, Washington, and Waukesha counties. Of course, we had the severe storms and flooding that occurred in August. And we just learned last week the Trump administration had denied Wisconsin's application for public assistance for more than $26.5 million in damages to public infrastructure. So those things would be like roads and parks. The Trump administration did approve money for individual homeowners and businesses if they were affected by the floods. There is a chance to appeal. The governor's office says they will do that. We continue to watch what's happening out on the interstate. We got the fire department out there. I've been trying to figure out because this is the widest shot that we've had, if the vehicle in the back is part of law enforcement or if that is another vehicle that's been involved here. I think it might be a fire truck, because that's a door open, isn't it? And then we've got that one, looks like a truck with something on the back that has flipped, and now they've brought the tow truck in. As you can see, the tow truck has finally moved in, and they're trying to get that thing upright. But man, this is going to slow down your commute if you're going I-94 southbound out of the city. This is by College Avenue, right by the airport. So be careful of that. I'm going to go to Washington, D.C. right now. Amy Klobuchar, it looks like she's wrapping up here.
Mr. President.
Senator from Virginia.
Mr. President, thank you. I rise to thank my colleague,
Here's another Democrat,
Senator Klobuchar, for her hard work on this effort and her work over many years in leading the U.S.-Canada interparliamentary dialogue. That's a dialogue that we have with some nations that are longstanding allies of the United States. And I maintain that the U.S.-Canada relationship is really the model for what a relationship between two neighboring nations should be. I primarily object to the Canada tariffs because I don't think there's an emergency that should trigger the use of this statute, but there are many other reasons I object to them, and the fracturing of this long-standing, powerful relationship is one of them. I spoke yesterday.
As we listen to what's happening in Washington, I'm just going to keep this shot up here in Milwaukee County, what's happening on the interstate, so you can watch two things happening at once.
There have been 3 academic studies of the Virginia economy in recent months, and they were recently summarized by a publication called Cardinal News in Virginia earlier this month. And the takeaway line about how Virginia is faring under Donald Trump's economic mismanagement is this: fewer jobs, higher prices, slower growth. The firing of federal employees, the cancellation of celebrated economic development projects, the imposition of tariffs in a chaotic on-again, off-again, pause-again, give you an exception, we'll renegotiate regime. All of these things are deeply hurting the Virginia economy, and I know my colleagues around the country are experiencing the same thing. That economic wrecking ball composes many elements beyond the tariffs, but the tariffs are really the central item that is causing damage to our economy right now. the tariffs that have been imposed by...
All right, that's Tim Kaine. Remember when he was Hillary Clinton's running mate, 2016? A Democrat, still represents Virginia there in the Senate, and he's talking tariffs against Canada. On the left is what's happening in Milwaukee County. We got a nasty crash on the interstate. This is going to slow you down. All these stories are in your Fox Local app. So as we move on to our next show here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, you can still follow what's happening. Of course, we'll have the latest on Fox 6 News at 4, 5, 6, 9, 10. I mean, right here on your Fox Local app. You just stay here. We got you covered, so stay here. Hey, thanks for joining us on a Wednesday. Man, was that busy? Did you learn something about pumpkins? I did. Hope you had fun. We'll see you next time. Same place, same time tomorrow.